calling all aspiring DJs and sneakerheads. You think you got the skills? Then check out YarisVsYaris.com for the Yaris vs. Yaris live event series. Like this podcast, this event is brought to you by Toyota.
All right, everybody, this is the One Up Yours show for Friday, August 10th on the One Up Network. Good to be here. I'm Garnet Lee. Have John Davison with me as well. Shane has headed back to the homeland, which I found out his homeland moved. You know, we talk about being a Kentucky boy, right? But
yeah.
Apparently now it's Illinois.
Yeah, he's flying over, as he would call them, flyover states right now. He's actually flying to what he would call flyover state. That's where his family lives now.
How can Illinois be a flyover state?
I thought it was like Munich anyway, his homeland.
Shane has
Bettenhausen.
Shane has the coasts, and then everything else.
And there you go to number 3 and number 4 chair today. Mark McDonald, Jeff Green.
Hi.
Good to be here.
Who's 3 and who's 4?
That's all right. We'll work that out later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Together you are 7.
Okay.
Excellent.
To say to that.
All right.
Rudimentary arithmetic there.
I are adding math.
What's 3 and 7, Garnet?
3 a lot.
Wow, it's like we're already talking about Big Brain Academy We degree here.
What a lead-in.
Wow, dude. I mean, he's really making a play for the 4th chair now.
Man.
He's like handling segues.
Perfectly.
Holy crap.
So, you've
All right,
been
dude.
playing that, huh?
Take it.
I have. That's one of the game. I mean, it came out a while ago, but I just got it in the in a little game giveaway we had at Game Videos, and I like the Big Brain. I like the Big Brain. I like the DS game. I played it a bunch. I mean, you guys liked it, right?
Is it different than Brain Age?
No, I mean, well, it's different than Brain. Like Big Brain Academy, the DS game is a little different from Brain Age, the DS game. Like they're kind of named confusingly, but yeah, they're two different games. Kind of the same idea, different.
They make you smarter.
Puzzles and things supposed to make you smarter. This one, instead of giving you an age, it weighs your brain. So
it weighs it?
It weighs it. I mean, it doesn't.
You cut the fucking head open, scoop that shit out. It's Indiana Jones monkey scene.
You take two Wiimotes. You put one on your left shoulder, one on your right shoulder, and it. If John hadn't started laughing, I would have had Jeff actually.
I was looking over. Yeah, I was.
John,
what?
Why didn't you keep a straight face?
I know, because I was thinking about what's that?
The Wii has magical powers. We don't quite understand.
Balance it on your head.
Now, this also goes fine with the DS's new face training program, right?
God, I really actually want to try that.
Where you look at it and you practice your smiling.
Came out in Japan, made for old people. I think Shane has bitched about it before. Yeah, these are the games Nintendo is making now.
This should be mandatory for everybody who's going to be on Game Videos, right? So we could get our smile, get our teeth shots.
Send that with your resume.
Teaches you how to smile.
Yeah,
teaches you how to smile.
No, it's facial exercises, and it shows you what to do, and then you do them yourself. Mm-hmm. It's very exciting.
This could be good for the porn industry, don't you think?
Well,
yes, Jeff. Sure, okay.
I'm just thinking there might be certain positions.
That really erotic smiling.
I don't think shoving deep throating a cucumber is one of the facial training.
Thank you for at least understanding where I was coming from.
It took me a little bit, but I got there.
Dude, when she looks up, she has to be smiling and biting the eye.
I was thinking maybe just the Wiimote itself you would.
Anyway.
So, do you like Big Brain Academy?
It's fun. It's the same. It's kind of the same game that you.
I don't think you could get the Wii remote right in your mouth.
That you
see, I got you thinking about it.
I don't know.
We're all going to try
weighs
tonight.
About 1,100 grams. For those of you wondering, just
let me understand this. If you're smarter, your brain is heavier.
That's the conceit.
You might gag on the nunchuck and the cable.
Oh. Really? We got to follow like Johnny Carson rule. It's like 2 jokes about something, and then you got time to move on.
When I play it, I always play the competitive thing, which I kind of enjoy.
Yeah,
which are like the races through the challenges.
Right.
I find that a lot more enjoyable than the single player stuff.
It has a good multiplayer mode that I didn't play at this, but I played at Nintendo's Gamers Day. It's been out. It's kind of sad how little, all the brain games made.
Apparently.
Really?
Yeah, no one bought it.
Because it made a blip when the first one came out. But, it is well done. It sucks you can't play online with other people. You can sort of in a roundabout way, connect with people through WeConnect 24 and compare brain sizes and stuff like that. So kind of some competition. But anyway, the games are very visual. It works well with the Wii Remote. But yeah, if you play the DS game, if you like the DS game, you basically played it. Into, games that are new or newer, I played a bunch of stuff on Xbox. I played the Stranglehold demo. A lot of people are talking about. Garnett, you actually played a lot more. The demo is just a Hong Kong level. It's quite a lot, though. I was impressed.
Do you like
with
that
what
kind of flick?
Get.
Do you like that kind of flick? Like, do you like those kind of movies?
Yeah.
Because I love that shit. I mean,
Right.
I get to watch that stuff. Jason Statham and Jet Li and anything John Woo produced and pretty much anything Wuxia, just all that kind of stuff, I dig it. And that game really gets it right.
It delivers on. It is
to me.
Yeah, well, it is quintessential like action video game, right? It's got the bullet time, tequila time. Wait, first of all, though, why is the guy named Tequila? Like, he's an Asian guy. He works as a Hong Kong cop.
Who the fuck cares what his name is?
That's kind of it. It's a little cheeseball.
Dude, you're not going into that game for story, are you?
Well, John Woo's directing it. Shouldn't I be? Like, I should want to watch the cutscenes at least. I mean,
maybe
they do some cool camera things, but
maybe the atmospheric part. But I don't know about the story overall.
Yeah. Well,
how does this differ from like Max Payne or some other game that already used bullet time?
It doesn't a lot. More particles. Uses the Unreal Engine.
Well, you're way closer up on the character, and so that changes your point of view dramatically.
I mean, if you consider that a big difference. I mean,
I think it's a big difference, like from Max Payne. Like Max Payne, you're seeing Max, removed, you're pulled back. So you see him in the environment, and you see more of the environment. Here, it's more visceral. You're right up in his grill.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely takes it over the top. You basically come up and touch any object. Like, if you come near a bar, you touch it, your character automatically like jumps on it and starts to slide across. It's basically set up to do all of these crazy kind of scenes that you expect from Hong Kong cinema. But I mean, it does feel a ton like a lot of other games have been, like Dead to Rights and stuff like that. It's not a bad thing. I mean, I started playing it. It's very playable. It's very fun. You're just mowing through hundreds of guys. It's kind of brainless, and there's a few little.
Do you like the pillow fight effect?
Yeah, I do, actually. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
No.
It's like everything you fucking blow up in this game, it's like particles, and it's like a fucking pillow fight. It's like you're watching a pillow fight. There's shit everywhere.
I thought you said the bullet flight effect.
No, the pillow fight effect.
No, well, what I thought you were talking about that I like, that's fine. I mean, it's funny, though, because everywhere there's like a pile of apples or a watermelon. Right? Like, things are meant to be just like blown to shit. Everything's meant to be blown up in slow motion and go into particles. But what I thought you were talking about, like, you get these special powers and you can like guide a bullet, kind of like you do in Heavenly Sword. You can guide a bullet right into a guy's head and watch him slow motion explode.
Yeah, no, that stuff's cool. I thought the power system was cool.
Right.
This is a family game, right?
It's
very much absolutely
rated.
Seriously, when I saw the head exploding in slow motion and blood, I'm like, this is what people think video games are, and they are sometimes. Sometimes they are that, and that's not so bad.
That's okay.
Yeah, there's actually an event tonight. There's like a little movie that plays at the end that shows you a little bit of multiplayer. I'm kind of curious about that. It looks cool, and I will say, though, it uses the Unreal Engine, and unlike a lot of other games, it really doesn't have an excuse not to look as good as Gears of War, because it's the same, it's the same closed hallway environments and stuff like that. It doesn't really look as good as Gears of War. It doesn't look bad.
It's a lot brighter.
The one level I saw was very Gears-like. It's just the one Hong Kong level. And okay. I do hate everyone.
The Hong Kong level is not indicative of all the different places you play.
Okay, yeah. Though that's good. And there's some scenes I saw in the thing where you're like manning a turret on a
like you saw the video
helicopter.
We cut of like going through like the shantytown stuff, right?
Right.
Yeah, that was completely different than
right. And then not every game. I do hate. I have to say, like, I hate all of the comparisons every game to Gears, but that's what I thought. Like, yeah, that's what I thought myself when I was walking around. It just kind of looks that way. Fatal Inertia. There's a demo too. Xbox, anybody else tree of the world?
I heard such bad things about it that I avoided it.
People were
like, oh,
it's not good. I guess it's Koei Canada's first game. I mentioned it last week, but I actually got a chance to really play it some more this week. It's just,
but it's not. You're actually saying it's not good.
It's not good. The
Why?
demo is bad. Everything, pretty much. Like, the controls, the designs, the environments, the tracks are really small. Like, it just doesn't feel right. It's not fun. I finally got the mechanic. You actually slow down in order to boost, which is weird, right? Yeah, you hit the brake, you stop, you slow down in order to then boost, which is kind of annoying. But if you do use it on the turns, that's what it's meant to be. You come around a turn, you almost stop, and then boom, you go straight ahead. But it just doesn't work that well. There's nothing particularly exciting about it. It's just very generic. I mean, from the one level, it's just a one-level demo, but there's a few different modes.
So you're punch and eject on this.
Yeah. Fatal Inertia, I don't know.
Gone. Demo already off your hard drive.
Yeah, it was.
Done.
It was gone immediately.
Ta-da.
And then the other stuff, I just tried a bunch of the Konami's been putting up a lot, pretty much like one a week of Xbox Live Arcade games. And I just sampled a lot of them. Sadly, didn't really find any of them worth buying. Track and Field, which I was excited about, is... Yeah, exactly.
I was going to get this last night.
But here's the problem.
It's not what you remember it to be.
Damn it.
No, it is. Track and
Okay.
Field is awesome. Don't listen to
All right.
John. Track and Field is excellent, whether it's trackball or buttons or even NES when you can use your fingernail to go back and forth like that. But the problem here is it's set up default to 2 buttons, and I don't know if it would make a difference on the Xbox pad, but if you try to hit 2 buttons, like I couldn't do the long jump because it uses the 2 buttons on either side. If you imagine the Xbox buttons as being like a diamond shape,
Sure.
it uses the left and right one.
There's probably some exercises you could come up with to help your fingers do that
Some
better.
Kegel exercises.
Yeah,
Well,
just something to like move your fingers faster like that.
Probably you could, if that would be worth it for you. But
Might be worth it for your date.
How did it look? Did they update the Did they update the graphics?
you were just I was trying to give you that line somehow, but they did update the graphics. But the thing with all these games is, have you seen any? They update them in this weird kind of creepy way. They look kind of like those first CD games from the early '90s, where they're like sort of airbrushed, but they're kind of high res, but kind of not. Like ER Kung Fu is the same way. Super Contra looks especially weird.
Do you feel like they're pushing this stuff out on Xbox Live Arcade to keep momentum going there and not lose that identity of downloadable games to PSN? Do you think this is a response to PSN stuff?
No, I think they're just.
It does seem like there's been more stuff in the last 6 months, maybe.
Well, you got
even 3
Wii
months.
coming out with 3 games.
Dude, Wii is on a whole other plane. I mean, they are blowing down the doors with their content.
That was the most exciting part of turning my Wii back on after so many months. I actually checked back. The last time I played it was April. Last time I played my Wii was April. And I did play Dragon Quest Swords, but that was on an import thing. But that little calendar function. And we'll talk about it later, but that Wii firmware update.
You're hot for that.
Lots of excitement. Like, my Wii glowed for the first time in months. I forgot I could
Mine
do
glowed
that.
like 2 nights in a row.
Wow. What are you getting?
And let me
for
tell you what,
Xbox?
folks. Once you get married and have kids, your Wii doesn't glow very often.
But try the veal.
That's it for me, though.
Don't forget to tip your server. Jeff, dude, I know you have some powerful, interesting PC games to regale us
Jeff,
with.
you've got.
I
the
do.
hot
I played
stuff.
Psychonauts. Awesome. That's why you had me on the show.
Isn't
right?
it great?
Psychonauts is great.
Yeah.
I feel bad I missed out on it the first time around.
Don't ask John about it. John, don't try and fool people into thinking that you
I played the
it.
first 2 levels and then just never go around to playing it anymore.
So what are you
Yeah.
playing? What are you playing it on?
On the PC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I got this Steam community thing that got featured on
yeah.
your old game videos
It's pretty impressive.
thing you got going. Yeah, it is. It is very impressive. I don't know. We probably don't want to,
You can give it all you
go
want.
into
I
that.
mean,
it's amazing. I mean,
one of yours has already taken countless hours of shit over Psychonauts.
Really?
We had once upon a time we were going to do like this whole we're going to play games that we're ashamed that we never played, and
Yeah,
Psychonauts
sure.
Psychonauts was the first one.
the first and last.
We never did it.
You never did it.
I did. I played it. I talked about it on the podcast, actually.
It's a good game.
I had played it already. It's a great
funny.
game.
It's funny.
It's-
It's a great platformer.
and that's why Tim Schafer now hates us.
He doesn't hate us.
He hates us.
He does not. So suffice to say, yeah, like I'd said before, like, I don't know if you found this, but it was weird to me to be like looking forward to dialogue and cutscenes. I'm so used to
Yes.
games being kind of like, okay, I have to either find what the next plot nugget is or I just
Yep.
want to skip it. But you're like, oh,
And it's always that way with Tim Schafer.
Right.
You want to read what he writes because he's funny. Game industry needs more of that.
indeed.
I'm
So?
saying. So
How do you like it?
so
You're into,
the
how far did you
Steam-
get into it?
into Psychonauts?
Yeah.
The first 2 levels.
Hey!
Oh, hey-oh!
The funny thing is, I didn't even really like you guys. The best parts are to come. I didn't even know I really loved it until
I'm
the
committed
fourth.
to this game. I'm
Yeah.
committed.
Great.
I'm really into it.
Cool. All right.
So Steam Community, I don't know what to say here as, EIC of official Games for Windows Mag, but GFW Live is in some serious shit.
Seriously.
I mean, Steam Community has it all, and it's free. And it's free.
Imagine that.
Now, the interface is kind of for shit, but we are talking about a beta here. So
Really? You
can't
didn't
really-
like the... I think I'm spoiled because I'm used to Xbox Live and I'm
Yeah.
used to having a mouse. To me, it was like, oh, shit, you can just click on that.
No, I mean everything works well. Yeah, I just meant aesthetically the look, like it's all that kind of brown, dark green.
I did have Sean...
I wanted it a little prettier.
Can you change that? That was
Right.
one of my first questions.
Right.
Yeah.
You want it prettier?
I want it prettier. I
like pretty things.
I want little horsies on it.
Unicorns.
Yeah, but the
Maybe they can get a police
functionality of it
sponsorship.
is unbelievable. You know, your buddy list, what everybody's playing right there. I mean, it's basically Xbox Live working for free on the PC.
Yeah, but isn't that the point? I mean, it wasn't the point that we've been arguing about Xbox Live on PC all along, that this shit is like easy to do on PC and it just takes
Yes.
someone pulling it.
And they did it.
And they pulled it
Valve
together.
did it. And it's working right now on XP.
Well, and they leapfrogged them. They have things like what I thought was the coolest thing is the groups that you can make groups like clans, and also calendar appointments. Like you can make
That's awesome.
appointments with your group.
Yeah.
It's kick ass.
Schedule
Yeah.
games.
You get reminders pop up when it. I mean, it's
That's cool.
yeah.
What the hell? Where does this leave Xfire?
Well, that's a good question.
I mean,
Yeah,
I would think that they're the ones who are most threatened by this.
In the dirt, really.
And they did it first, really.
They did do it first. I mean,
Yeah.
propers to Xfire for what they've done so far, but this sounds like what you're describing to me sounds like the tombstone for Xfire.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Valve, these guys are, really fucking smart. And they're just sitting up there being all quiet with all their money in their little bunker up there, coming up with shit that, blows our mind every time they decide to show it.
And they keep adding games, they keep adding publishers to the
yeah.
Steam store. So, I mean, Enemy Territories Quake War is going to
Yep.
be on Steam. You've got the Codemasters library stuff now
I
committed.
think all of
the-
id's library is up there now.
That's huge. I mean,
Yeah.
it's huge because of the back stuff. But what does that mean for all of the Rage games?
right.
The id Tech 5
I
games, I'm
downloaded
sorry.
Civ 4 yesterday.
Yeah.
How much are is this something that came up when we were talking about Warhawk? How much are full price games on Steam? Like full AAA game. Like
I
Civ
don't
4.
know.
What did you pay for Civ 4?
Well, yeah. That's an awkward question because I have a press
Jeff Green
account.
doesn't pay for games.
Maybe you don't know who I am, John.
If you were a
Really?
normal person,
Well, I'm
what would
assuming.
you pay?
Yeah, I don't know. I would.
It's been so long. This is like when George Bush went to the supermarket. It's been so long
How
since
does that scanner work?
Jeff has had to buy a game. He doesn't know
What
anymore.
do you mean pay for games?
20, 30,
I don't get it.
40,
I would guess,
but not no.
but not no. 40. I mean, I think they're just going for retail.
Yeah,
okay.
so that's where the retail argument's always
Yeah.
been. Is there's always been all that pressure from retail sales to keep that a level playing field, or else we won't buy your games and put them in our stores. That's always been the bullshit thing that has put the pressure back on publishers. So if Sierra or somebody wants to put their game on Steam, they're being held at gunpoint by the brick and mortars to look, if you're going to sell that shit on Steam, it cannot be cheaper.
It's so awesome the way they have it worked. I mean, the manual's right there online too. They're making a really convincing case to me, at least. Like, wow, I will never. Well, I don't buy any game, but I will never have to go to a store, a brick and mortar store, and buy a game. I could do it this way.
Does it work like Xbox Live, where if you have to delete the game or you move to a different hard drive and log in, you can download it again because you have
it's
the
there.
license for it?
Yes.
Well, the amazing
You
thing
can play it on any computer.
With
Any
your
game
login,
that you've bought,
it'll
you
just
can
pull it
play
down.
on any computer.
The amazing thing about Steam too now, the community stuff, is it works with games that, because it's an overlay.
Yes.
It works with games that aren't
That's
didn't
correct.
get off of Steam or
That's
even
correct.
supported.
I
by
added
Steam.
World of Warcraft to my little list inside the Steam community, and now people in the Steam community can see when I'm playing WoW. It's awesome.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that to me right there is the last line on the Xfire tombstone.
Well, that was what Xfire was built around,
Right.
That
Totally.
functionality,
Yes.
and then the messaging and everything that
Yes.
came off that.
Yeah,
So-
this has everything and more that Xfire ever did.
Wow.
Speaking of WoW, you were playing some WoW, weren't you, last weekend?
Nice segue.
Thanks.
I was. Yeah, I was at
Some
BlizzCon.
new WoW.
Some new WoW. I was at BlizzCon with the other kids from Legendary Thread, And we saw the new WoW expansion and StarCraft 2. And we played a little bit of that. And that's pretty cool. Who's next?
All right, you're right. We don't really want to hear about any of that. Okay,
Nothing
so Jeff,
grippable.
here's what I got to ask about. What's the deal with Warcraft and the expansion pack? Because I got to tell you, I'm probably calling in the next week or two and canceling my WoW account because I haven't logged in months.
Well, that's your problem, Garnet. I'm sorry. No, what
Get
do
me
you
excited.
What do you want to know?
Get me excited.
Get you excited.
I saw new dances.
There's new dances
In the
and
video.
there's new hairstyles.
New classes.
Oh, thank God.
Changeable
Yeah.
hairstyle. Yeah.
Changeable hairstyles.
Amazing.
Yep.
New character
My
class.
bald gnome can now have hair.
New character class.
Yes. New hero class.
Okay.
So probably everybody listening knows this already, but in case you don't, they added a new class. We knew actually, because we're special at GFW, that they were going to add a new character class, but we were racking our brains as to what they could possibly add because they already have every base covered in the base game. There was no room for another class, but they're clever fellows there at Blizzard, and so they added a hero class, which they've actually been talking about since day one, which is a high-level kind of special class that the way it's going to work now is only when your character gets at the very highest level of the game, which is they extended the cap to level 80 now. It's been
Right.
70. Now it's 80. You get to level 80, you can then go on a series of quests that will then unlock the ability to create a Death Knight, which is the new class. So you have to go through a lot and be at the highest end just to get it, and then your character doesn't become a Death Knight, which is the confusion everybody had after BlizzCon. Like, my gnome warlock does not then become a Death Knight. You just get the ability. It unlocks the ability to create one. And that new character is going to start already at a high level, like
Well,
around
thank
level
fuck,
60.
because going through that shit again on level 1 is just got
Yes.
to be murder.
Well, this was always Luke's big thing. Luke was always like,
Why do I have to keep starting over from the
Are you
beginning?
That
kidding
is a
me?
perfect Luke
Thank you.
impersonation.
I do that
That's
late at night
amazing.
by myself after the wife goes to bed. So he got his wish.
I'm just.
So wait, your new character starts at level. Did
Well,
it
they haven't
said?
said exactly. They're
Oh.
still, messing around with the balance.
Sure.
As to where that's going to be.
New lands. What's New Lands?
On Northrend, they have a brand new continent. In the old world of Azeroth, they got a whole. That's where the level to 70 to 80 content is. I don't know how much of lore, WoW lore, World of Warcraft lore you guys know, but Northrend is the place
Oh, we
where
know it all.
Arthas.
I heard there was some interesting elevator discussions and stuff when people were trapped in confined spaces at
Yeah.
BlizzCon of people discussing lore in great depth.
Yeah, I think Sean Malloy got trapped in an elevator with people. Well, BlizzCon, I mean, come on.
You're kind of asking for
Yeah,
it.
you got people paying $100 just to get in the
Yeah.
door. $100 plus the flight and the hotel over basically one game or two games if you count.
How
StarCraft
was
2.
BlizzCon? Like, did you have a good time?
I did have a good time. I did. I mean, I find going to those things kind of, it's sort of like home. Like you can go in there. I wasn't wearing my warlock
He's
outfit.
got his wife
that
beater
only-
and his jockey shorts on, and he sits down and adjusts
No.
himself a little bit.
No, I don't do that. I don't mean like that. I mean my my purple warlock robe that only my wife has seen. Late at night.
No, what do you mean? What do you mean?
What I mean is
Purple warlock robe
I don't know.
opens the door to
I
so
don't-
many jokes.
I don't know where that came from. No, what I mean is you go into this convention center and you've got these people like so passionate about this one game or this one even type of game.
Right.
Probably any MMO conventions like that. And you feel like these are my people. I can be
Right.
the biggest fucking dork I want. And there's nobody less of a dork than me
Right,
in
right,
this
right,
building.
right.
Everybody's just freely like, I am a gaming nerd.
Let your freak flag fly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's got that sort of vibe to it inside there.
It's too bad no console games have like anything even. I mean, roughly.
Don't they? You
equivalent.
don't have like a fanfare for I don't know, Pokemon.
You're like the Mario Brothers. Don't the Mario Brothers have some kind of?
Don't you think it would work? Couldn't they?
Like Halo Fest or something
There
like
you
that.
go.
Yeah.
You'd get thousands of people at a Halo Fest.
Oh, well, now we got Luke's job for the next 12 months.
It's like QuakeCon.
Yeah.
So no, it was awesome. I mean, it was great. And the cool thing too is, being in the press, so we get to be close to the Blizzard guys there and talk to them and interview them, is seeing their reaction. And we asked them that specifically because there's thousands and thousands of people at this thing. I mean, they sold out the Anaheim Convention Center, and that's a huge space. It's like a frickin' airport hangar.
Did they have like backstage Bettys all around, like one on either arm?
Oh yeah, and I got some
everywhere.
of that action too. You know what I mean? Yeah, they were all
because they're rock stars there.
They are, and that's the thing that was amazing to them because they know how popular their game is. I mean,
was Jeff just implying that he was getting some backstage at the green room at BlizzCon?
His wife doesn't listen to this podcast.
Yeah, your wife doesn't listen. Give us the
Fortunately,
details.
they were all teenage boys, but
that makes it okay.
They are online too. I mean,
so what'd you play or what'd you find out that people don't know from just like seeing the movies and stuff? Because you also played.
I played StarCraft 2.
And
go. Really, I had no like secret access that hasn't been reported everywhere else. I mean, they let people play the Terran and the Protoss in skirmish matches and a little bit of single player against the AI. And it looks great so far. I have to say though, I'm a Zerg man myself. So the one race that they haven't yet shown is the one I want to play.
Finish early.
I'm just leaving that alone.
You're all about the sex today.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know. It's just.
Did you get a note that the show doesn't have enough sex in it anymore?
Maybe
or
it's just me.
Sex it up.
Just being near me.
Yeah, Jeff. Obviously,
it actually might just be nearing.
It's the pheromones.
Yeah. You're excreting something that Garnet's picking up on. Well, actually, if I get close, it is quite alluring.
Wow. That's getting hot here on One Up Yours.
That's the Axe effect.
Yeah.
It's like an Axe effect commercial, just with middle-aged men.
Quite possible.
I guess I really haven't told you anything useful about StarCraft.
Thank you.
Yeah. Other than it looks great. The cool stuff about StarCraft was not the stuff that they were letting us play. It's what they showed us about the single-player campaign. I know we're going to segue later on in the show into stuff like this, but what they talked about, which is very unusual both for this franchise and for Blizzard in general, is that they are not proceeding with a linear, straight storyline as the single-player campaign progresses. They've decided to do a branching thing where you're all going to start off the same, and then there's going to be a number of different planets you can visit, and you're going to be able to choose the direction you go, and which way you choose to go and what missions you choose to do is ultimately going to affect how the game plays out. That said, I think that we're all going to end up at the same place. I think there's basically one ending, but there's going to be huge variability in the middle there for gamers, which is a very different change for Blizzard, who's usually very controlling about their storyline. So
is that new to the RTS genre? Like somebody must have done that before.
Where you could do variable missions. Well, yes, there's been
Ground Control 2. Did it do that?
Branching paths.
Yeah, there have been branching
is what
paths.
We're talking about.
There have been. It's unusual for Blizzard to go this way.
Okay.
In addition,
so like the big deal, the difference here is that traditionally, and StarCraft really hammered this home, is that in a 3-faction game, you played one faction, you played the next faction, you played the next faction, and when you played through those factions, it took you through the storyline of the game.
That's correct, and they're veering from that a little. In fact, they even sort of hinted that it may not be. You are going to play from all three races, but they may not do it one, then the next, and the next. There might be more switching back.
I think that would be cool.
Yeah, so that we don't know for sure, but that was a big thing that they talked about at BlizzCon. That was cool. Along with just one last thing from me on BlizzCon, they had the first information on the World of Warcraft movie, which was really, really interesting. And of course, it's way too early to get remotely excited about it. And I know a few of you guys here are probably going to Postal tonight. Now, that's what we normally think of when we think of a video game movie, right?
Actually, I think none of us are going to Postal tonight. But but anyway.
But this movie, they had a couple guys, the CEO of Legendary Pictures, who are the ones putting this together. This is the studio that made Batman Begins. They're doing Dark Knight. They also did 300. So these guys don't fuck around. These are real guys. The World of Warcraft movie has a $100 million budget. And they're looking to make, they said that the Holy Grail, of course, is Lord of the Rings.
Right.
And they have no pretense of getting there, but that's the level that they're looking at.
Dude, I'm sorry, but there's at least half of the audience that is still sitting there and they're picturing Night Elf boobs.
Well, see, that's the thing is
that not? Does anyone disagree with me?
But see, what they're going for here is.
I don't know if I understand the question.
There's half of the audience that heard Jeff Green say,
that
heard him say World of Warcraft movie, and they immediately thought of their favorite actress in blue paint with elf ears and no top.
Oh God, I hope not. Half the audience of one of yours, or
You're right. Probably actually.
Wow.
You're right. Probably 2/3 of the one of yours audience did that.
Now I'm doing that now. Actually, Garnet.
Have they-
Jessica Alba,
I wasn't, but
Blue,
now.
yeah, without fears.
Did
Yeah.
they announce a direct? They don't have a director.
They don't have a director.
So that's the sign. I always take
Yeah.
that as the sign. Like the director has, the director is who they
Yes.
get. That's the bellwether.
And that's what they said too. That's exactly what the Legendary Pictures guy said.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he made that very observation. He said, we're looking for a guy like, and they didn't say he could be even in the running.
Peter
Zack
Jackson.
Snyder, the guy who did 300 and he's now doing The Watchmen.
Sweet.
Yeah,
They rattled off a couple other directors. They didn't mention Peter Jackson.
right.
That'd be awesome.
Do they have a script?
They do have a script.
I gotta
Really?
think someone like J.J. Abrams or what's his name, Lindelof, that does Lost,
Oh, the
who
Lost
is a big
guys.
gamer and has a lot of respect. But those guys have a lot of respect for
Right.
the games.
It's
and
such a slam dunk. I mean, how do you even if people don't like it, enough people are going to see it that
just to be because it's part of the lore at that point. You've got to
Yeah.
go to be a completist. You
Right,
know?
but they also said that like if all of the 9 million people who subscribe to WoW went, that is not what they're after. They're after something way bigger than that. This is the movie studio talking.
Right.
You know that they know that everybody at BlizzCon is going to go see this.
9 million people's a $90 million movie. I mean, that's not bad.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean,
plus dates or not. Wah, 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 wah.
Well, you can.
Sorry. I had to put that in there. Sorry.
The mouth breathers can always take mom as part of their rent check for the month.
For the record, I know lots of WoW players that have very healthy relationships,
with their mothers.
And some
I don't
girls
know.
that play well.
and many girls that play WoW.
right, and
Kathleen?
guys who say they're girls.
Dude, I went out to dinner the other. Totally aside, I went out to dinner the other night, and my server comes to the table, and she's wearing a Bloodsail Buccaneers T-shirt. So there you go. There's your
Really?
anecdotal evidence.
I don't even know what
I-
that means, but
I
that-
lost my pager. I had one last game, and then I'm done. And that's a kart rider.
wow. Okay, maybe you're done.
I think you should hit eject now.
Okay, I'm done.
Is that a free Flash game?
No. It's that Korean MMO card thing that has like 80 billion subscribers.
The one that's free where you pay for all the bits.
So it is a
Exactly.
free Flash game.
This was the pioneer of the micropayment
yeah.
thing, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Which gave us freestyle basketball.
Yeah. So
Yes, exactly.
How about that? Is that going to catch on
Fun.
here?
I think it could.
What?
Sure.
For
Wouldn't
real?
you, wouldn't
It's
you
free.
race? Wouldn't you race against other people for free? And then you pay 50 cents and you can get a little Coke can that hangs off the back of your car.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Why would you want to do that?
Because then you could spill Coke on the
I
road.
got John on my side now.
Because you could spill Coke on the road. It's not all product placement.
Why would you want to do that?
Because then it makes the other guy spin out. It's like
Coke?
Yeah, it's like Mario Kart. You know, you got little power ups and things to
Is it
fuck with the other
Fun
players.
to play like Mario Kart?
Yeah,
Really?
it is.
Really?
I'm here doing PR on this game for just
Now I think you're defending it just because we
because
dismissed
you made fun of it.
So
No, I had fun. I did.
Jeff's wearing a hat and it's made of money.
It's a beautiful thing, actually.
Like brought to you by Nexon, makers of.
The most amazing
Kart
part was
rider.
it was really hard to make a hat out of pennies.
No, I'm here. You heard
It's
it
a
from me here
microtransaction
first.
hat.
It's a fun little game.
Kart Rider sweeping the nation. What a
Takes-
great
takes-
name too.
Kart rider.
Yeah.
It'll catch on. That's
You know what?
Kart
That's
with
great.
a K.
What's this
by
game
the way.
about? It's
Oh.
about carts. Well, what do people do in carts? They drive them.
They ride.
They ride in them.
There you go.
They do.
They play golf.
And this whole conversation took place in Korean, but it did happen probably. And
I'm telling you.
Fury might be the
Scoff now, and I'll see you on the racetrack later.
All right,
Mister.
or not. Fury might be the game that tests this. They just announced that they're going to do all of that, microtransaction sort of approach to their game. That's the Gamecock, massively multiplayer online role-playing game where you're based in fighting or whatever. I don't know. I haven't seen it. But we're going to see it at PAX.
I asked these guys at Nexon yesterday, what is the percentage of people who actually buy anything? And the microtransactions go from 50 cents to like $10. $10 will get you a new cart.
with a K.
With a K. 5% buy anything.
Is that impressive?
95%.
Yeah.
Play for free all the time exclusively.
And that's good enough for them to make it go.
Make money.
Well,
That's
Wow.
enough
How many
for them
people
to make.
play it?
Seriously, in Korea, it's like 15 million.
Well, 5% of 50 million is quite a lot of people.
Right.
you were making fun of my math earlier. Go ahead, knock it out real quick. 5% of 15 million is.
Some millions.
Hold on, Mark's calculating. While Mark's calculating,
Yeah.
Wait,
No.
no. 300,000?
Not at all, 3 million.
I don't know.
But
Whatever.
it's a nice
Post
stab.
it on the boards.
John, what have you been playing?
Nothing new, actually. I played some more Everyday Shooter because it's like crack. Have you been playing that? No, you were playing that, weren't you?
No.
I've been playing it, but the fucking person to watch is Nick. Nick got
The
to the
savant.
Oh, dude, he's good at it.
But I think the interesting thing about that is that we didn't talk about this last week, but it is like playing along with an album as opposed to playing a game you're playing along with the music because the levels are actually finite in length and you go into it thinking, oh, I've got to shoot lots of things or get a certain number of points. You don't. You have to play it until the track bar has gone all the way to the end, and then you move on to the next track. So everything that you do is like linked to the music, the way Res is. So like the more things you shoot, the more sort of extra little arpeggios you get, and it'll go from some really kind of grungy bluesy thing, and then it gets really ambient in places as well. And when it gets ambient, the style goes. There's like sort of the more natural. Have you seen the level that gets more natural when there's like birds and clouds?
Yep.
And yeah, I mean
That's the level I've gotten to. I think it's really cool.
So it's like up until this point, it's all been like sort of big flashing lights and blobs and weird abstract sort of very trippy thing, and then suddenly it goes very serene and ambient and but you can there are cheat modes that you can open up that actually turn off all of the collision and everything, so you can play it a lot like some of the old Jeff Minter things. Like the color space and the light, the trippy light things that you could, because then you're just sort of wandering around and setting off chains in time to the music and not worrying about the actual challenge of the game. So it's a very different kind of experience like that. Be good if you're, having a nice relaxing evening on your own, maybe in the basement,
maybe
smoking
something or another. I don't know
What are
what
you guys
that would
talking
be.
about?
I don't know. You live
Right.
you live in Berkeley, so you've probably never experienced
I
this
don't-
kind of thing.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So I played that. I played
Officer.
What do you think of the difficulty of it? What do you think of difficulty?
I don't think people got it until you guys started coughing, and I'm glad you did that. Yeah, what about that
beat that to
difficulty?
What about that difficulty?
Yeah.
It's very hard.
Yeah, that's like so. Like two things I came out of Everyday Shooter with is it's pretty hard, which is good because it's derivative and pulls from everything in the two-stick shooter world and other games that are along the same lines like we talked about Every Extend Extra last year. And I think that this might be getting close to the end of the run of the twin-stick shooter.
I think they've definitely been overdoing it, like especially on,
Well, there's 3 on PS3 now.
oh, there's so many. I can't even keep track of the ones on Xbox Live and
And they're all
PS3.
fundamentally the same, but this one I think is the most original.
Yeah, this one definitely stands out.
Yeah.
So that's why I was saying I think this is like the zenith of that, bringing together a bunch of derivative stuff, making something original out of it, and then do you really need another one after this?
Well, yeah, we have the $50 twin-stick shooter coming down the pipe any day now, so we'll be fine.
Bam! Punched in the face.
Then we'll talk about value when you're talking about video games.
But I will say I already thought I was done with twin-stick shooters after the first Geometry Wars Super Stardust proved me wrong. Now this looks good. I don't want to close the door on it. Let's not say anything we regret later.
All right.
I've been playing some Warhawk again. Every now and then you can scratch up a game around here.
So you're going to
forward-
buy the $40 or the $60 with the headset version,
I think I'm going to buy the 40.
the download?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about this the other day, and it's one of those games. There are a bunch of people looking forward to it, and it's not the kind of game that anyone's going to, really go out of their way to pre-order, or no one's going to go line up at a store at this. But if they say Warhawk's going to be available at midnight on this day, I bet there'll be a bunch of people clogging up the servers the second.
Not
that
at $40.
You don't think?
No,
Did you see
I
this?
fully don't think so.
I think you'd be surprised.
You know what? Sam and I were talking about this at lunch the other day, and we both agree that like $40 is just like that's the chopping the legs off from underneath them. $30, $30 it would be great. $20 it would be an unbelievable stampede. $40. How do you justify $40 over 60?
We had this conversation already. You don't have to get fired up about it.
But you got to remember, like a lot of people don't give a crap about a lot of people don't give a crap about having voice, sadly, and a lot of people don't give a crap about having the box. All of us and stuff probably like to have that kind of stuff. But you mentioned the servers, John. Did you see the post on the PlayStation blog?
there was a guy on our boards that was like that brought it up. Zero Reborn posted a bunch of the pictures that were on the blog, which kicked off this whole conversation on. Can you imagine how difficult it is to keep that room cool? All those PS3s that close together?
I didn't know if I should be impressed or like horribly, horribly unimpressed that it was just like a rack
It's
of
just a
PS3s,
bunch of PS3s?
all stacked up, all on, all the time. Like,
Dude, they had to figure out something to do with all those ones in the warehouse.
oh,
Ouch.
zing!
I mean,
That's all the 20 gig units they didn't sell.
Yeah, the comments, woo.
Well, I got my kid.
hopefully they won't break, because I got to tell you, I got my new PS3 and I had to call it for service on Monday, and I'm still on Thursday night waiting for the damn box to send the thing in.
Hey, at least Microsoft gets you your box fast.
I know. At least Microsoft gets you your freaking cardboard.
They've had a lot of practice.
They have had a ton of practice.
I was-
They've had so much practice they had to like create their own site for it, which we'll talk about in news.
I was going to say, it does seem like, you know how Microsoft does, I mean, everybody does that thing where once a new console comes out, they stress test the hell out of it. It seems like a stress test room. I mean, they have like 75 or whatever, just racks and racks of them throughout the world. But they're doing a lot of, they did mention on that blog, a lot of cool things that they're doing. Like they listen to community feedback and not letting people fake server names, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll see how it works
I'm looking
out.
forward to the game. The game's out week after next or something. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too.
So the other thing I did that is game related but not playing game is I read the Mass Effect novel
Wow.
all the way through.
That's a little bit sad.
I got to tell you, he read it after I finished the shit. So
Yeah.
All right, so was it any good?
Yeah.
It's all right. I mean,
I liked it.
It's written by the guy that wrote the game. So, and it actually explains a lot of the things that you know if you've read any of the Mass Effect websites or looked at the wiki, it puts a lot of that stuff into context. And the bad guy in the game is Saren, who's they're called Taurian, the bird-looking guy, and it explains why he becomes the bad guy essentially. And there's a lot of history to the game, and I mean it's not the best written book ever.
No, it's not.
Really? It's not?
Yeah, no, not a work of literary genius.
Okay, Faulkner doesn't have to worry.
No,
now.
they're
Okay.
fine. But I think as a if you're excited for the game and you want to sort of learn about the background, I mean it is an interesting insight in because it takes place. I don't know. It's like 10 years, 20. I don't know. It's a number
really know.
a
It's in
number
the
of
future.
years before the game, but it sets the scene for a lot of the key plot drivers in the game. The book sets it up, and I mean it's a fast read. It's like
Dude, I knocked it off in like 3 days.
yeah, I mean it's you can start reading it and finish it in a weekend.
So you guys have read both of you read any of the Halo books?
Yeah.
Better or worse?
It's which one? Because the Halo novels deteriorate.
Oh, okay. So put it in the.
Okay, I would say I
would.
would put it behind the first Halo novel, but ahead of the other two.
Okay.
I've never read another video game novel. I was shocked that it was even halfway decent.
I just admitted to reading at least 4 video game novels.
I started reading this thing because Dr. Ray handed it to me at that demo, and I was sitting there getting ready to come home from E3.
It was Dr. Greg.
Dr. Greg, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, it was Dr. Greg,
You
wasn't
have to
it?
make
Dr.
excuses.
Dr.
Garnet.
Ray was playing
he
poker.
was, yeah, well, he was. Yeah, that's right. Anyway, he handed it to me, and I was like, "Hey, they're going to support it. I'll take it. Sure, I'll read it."
You're like, yes, sir.
I like
will
the
read it.
idea of extending a franchise like that in a novel and like getting people to sort of get into the universe
if
that
it's
way.
If it's the guy who wrote the game, though, does it bode well or ill for the game, or can you just not tell?
I think it bodes well.
I think it bodes very well for the game. It's a very well thought out, very complete universe that they've constructed. So I'd be very interested to see all the documents for like the Bible for Mass Effect because it must be very thorough because it's
Right.
There's a lot of consistency to it and there's a lot of I mean, it's obviously modeled on Star Wars to the point that the biotics are. It's Metachlorians just called something else.
Dark
it's
energy.
Are all the names like one off?
yeah, Jer, and
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
DFCR. I have a problem with game novels. Sort of.
They vary in quality dramatically.
Yeah.
Like
My problem is that I've picked up the World of Warcraft ones a couple times because I think I really like the WoW lore and I don't know the whole picture. If I read this, maybe I'll know why the Night Elves blah blah blah. But I always get like 20 or 30 pages in, and I'm like, I really should just be if I'm gonna read and not waste my time playing games, I should read a real book.
Well, not as bad as
because this is like reading a manual, and that's not really real.
if you think it's just taking game time, though, if it's just something you would have had dedicated to the game anyway, it's adding to your enjoyment.
No, but it's
of the
because
game.
I'm like, I'm not going to play games tonight because that's juvenile. I'm going to read a book.
You'd read the
I'm
Kama
about to
Sutra.
read the World of Warcraft
Wait a minute.
book.
Wait a minute. You'd read the Kama Sutra. You'd like that game?
Again with you.
Seriously.
It's a theme.
Wow.
It's not a very good one.
And also,
It's an awesome theme.
listeners don't know Garnett's been naked the entire podcast.
Exactly.
Too. Like,
would you put it away?
I can't. I can't. I have to press some more buttons.
Yeah.
And on that note, hold on. Before we go, wait. How about bad movies? Postal. You were telling me Mark was going to go see Postal tonight, but
well, we watched the trailer and we decided against it. Yeah, it was we were on the site to buy the tickets. And Patrick, a lot of people are going tonight. Uwe Boll is here. The
right, Patrick's going to try and talk to.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're going to be there at the showing. There's a party afterwards. If you're going to see it, this would be the time to see it. I just saw the trailer. I could not.
And it's the director's cut.
Wow.
The
trailer turned you off to going.
The thing about a bad movie, I love bad movies, but a bad comedy, you just can kind of groan. Like a bad movie that takes itself seriously, you can laugh at it, you can joke about it, but if it's supposed to be a comedy already, you're just kind of fucked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it has Dave Foley in it.
It does, which I don't know if that's a good or bad thing for Dave Foley.
I you know what? I really like his comedy, so I'm just glad he got a paycheck. I mean, dude should be making some money.
Yeah. Well,
all right, I'm going to bring this home real quick.
Yeah, you got
first of all,
thing that we should be talking
well,
about.
so let me do Lair real quick because the EGM's out there, and a lot of people have been upset about our scoring of Lair. And let me tell you what, folks, if you're upset about it, you just haven't played it.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's exactly the same situation as with MotorStorm. It's like PlayStation fanboys really are hanging on this game. They want it to be great. It really isn't.
I wanted it to be great. And I have to tell you, because I have championed the game on this show before, I thought it would be good from the snippets I had played in demos, but playing snippets in a demo is not the same as playing a game from start to finish.
So sum it up.
I can sum it up for you real quick. It's not just like Rogue Squadron. It's Rogue Squadron as fan modded into a dragon game. When the air combat is you flying around in a dragon and jamming the breath button, that's really weak. When the camera still isn't fixed and it's actually maybe worse than it was on a GameCube game, that might be a problem. And oh, by the way, because it's not like you're flying a dragon, it's like you're flying a freaking jet plane that looks like a dragon, and then they kill it because there's no map. This is a game with you played Rogue Squadron, right?
Right.
So you have all these objectives, and you're like, oh, go save these guys on the ground, but go over here and make sure that this ground attack doesn't be successful, and then don't forget you have to defend this thing over here, which is fine in Rogue Squadron because you had a little map and you could see here's the bad guys.
It makes sense in Rogue Squadron because you're in a spaceship, right? But
dude, you're in a fucking spaceship that looks like a dragon.
But that's the thing. If you fault it for you being on a dragon, you can't also fault it for not also having a magical.
Oh yeah, I can.
Dragon radar.
Give me goddamn magical. Give me a magic dragon radar or something.
Yeah, in real life, dragons don't have radar.
Yeah, duh.
Duh.
Everybody who flies a dragon knows that. No, but the Rogue Squadron games reviewed well. Those games get good scores.
Right.
So are you saying it's the same game? It's just time has passed, or are you saying?
Look, the Rogue Squadron games got at least a little bit of a bonus from at least being genuine to what they were. I mean, when they were drenched in Star Wars lore, which was good, and you got a real sense of being in space. It all worked together. This really feels like
it all worked together.
Yeah, don't you think so?
All of them?
No, okay. So let me just say that my experience.
We're just talking about the first one.
I'm very romantically referring to the first one on GameCube.
Okay, good.
Sorry.
Very romantically.
No, dude, I liked it. I liked the first one.
So this is essentially
how you said it.
So, I mean, are we saying that this Factor 5's fundamental problem is they just keep making the same damn game over and over?
Yeah, that's part of it. And then the expectation of what they could have done with it on the PlayStation 3 is really high. I mean, come on, everything in this whole game looks like someone poured chocolate over the top of it. It's all brown and gooey, and the art style is about as interesting as it looks like. It looks like it was someone took the cover illustration from a couple of Go's publishings of Lord of the Rings and did all the buildings.
But I mean, is it? I mean, it's a good looking game, right? I mean, because part of the hook with Rogue Squadron as well
It's
was
high def.
because Rogue Squadron was. It wasn't a
not
groundbreaking
interesting.
game, but it was gorgeous,
God,
and
it
it was
was
Star
gorgeous.
Wars. So
Yeah.
a lot of what people got whipped up about with Rogue Squadron, particularly the first one, was like, oh my god, isn't the GameCube awesome? And like, isn't Star Wars awesome? And as a game, it was never great.
There are these elephant-like things that you fight later on in the game that you have to fly your dragon down and launch your little harpoon gun and fly around their legs and wrap up their legs so they fall over.
Is it snowing when it does that?
It fucking ought to be.
Julian actually joked about that because he said, like, yeah, if you guys knew, like, whatever, because they know the whole legacy. So was there
So
anything,
don't get mad at me, Julian. You guys could have been a lot more creative with this shit.
So was there anything that you did? Is there anything good about it? Was there anything that you did like about it? What about the motion control? Or
Motion control's cool. You know what? I guess the parts that you like about it are the parts that you liked about all the Rogue Squadron stuff. The scope is really grand. The ability to like interact with these giant freaking battles that are going on the ground is really cool. The ground combat got way better because they ended that whole deal of like having to make you use motion control when you landed. So when now you land, you use the sticks. You feel like a badass when you're a dragon, just ripping the shit out of ground troops and all that kind of stuff. It's just that as a whole, it has no soul. Unlike the other game I played,
Oh, yeah.
which has tons of soul. So
mystery game from last week.
mystery game from last week is indeed BioShock.
The
and
Luther Vandross of video games, apparently.
let me just start off with this
That's
about
a box quote right there.
BioShock takes the big ass steel gauntlet and throws it the fuck down in front of any other game this year for Game of the Year. I'll just say, so you guys probably
Wow, that is.
I got
those
Cartwriter over here in my corner.
you guys
You're saying it takes Cartwriter in a straight up battle.
I'm saying it potentially will beat the shit out of everything else out there. And yes, I'm including Halo 3, and yes, I'm including Mass Effect. So I know rather than me like try and figure out what I can and can't say, you guys tell me what the biggest concerns you have are about BioShock.
Well, let's go through the straight questions that I know, because I've been talking to people about BioShock this
All right.
whole week. So, like, the first questions that I was around, people asking, how long is it?
It's
Because you finished it.
I finished it, and it's more than amply long enough. It depends on how long you're gonna invest in it. But even if you just like straight stream through it, ignoring everything that you could to just get through it as fast as you can, it's going to take you easily over 12 hours.
Really?
And easily.
I heard 20 hours.
Oh, it's well over 20 hours if you're playing the game and having fun with it.
yeah, like
That's plenty.
I watched a couple of people who were like just hardcore powering through it, ignoring everything in the game, and I think you could maybe finish it in 14 or so. But you'd like, why the fuck would you do that?
Right.
That would be just dig into the game.
There's a lot of people that play Metal Gear and skip the cutscenes if they can. So there's a bunch of people that'll
Yeah,
play.
I would highly. Anybody who's playing the game to enjoy it is going to be investing well over 20 hours on it, and you're definitely going to play it more than once.
and graphics, like it look as good as it has looked.
Absolute showpiece for the 360. I played it on the 360. Absolute showpiece for the 360. Like, I can't tell you how many times I walked up to the edge of one of those like aquarium-like connectors in the city where you're like in this tunnel with plexiglass,
Right.
and just stood there and looked out the glass window at the city and was like, the fuck, this is amazing.
I know you can't talk about the story specifically, but I do want to talk about it in sort of somewhat larger terms,
Okay.
and the whole philosophy behind it. That the heat that they got from all the utopian people.
the utopists.
This was news to me that they got heat from utopian people.
Angry utopian
people
people.
complaining that the Randian utopia cannot fail. So the fact that it's about the failure of a Randian utopia is bad, and Ken Levine is evil. But however, from what I've seen, I mean, I've only ever seen the different ways that you can shoot at things and blow shit up and chase after things, and I'm wondering how that gels with what we'd been led to believe is a pretty deep and pretty complete mythology that it's built around. I mean, how is that articulated, and how is the story presented?
Let me back out then one layer and tell you that, to me, the game that after I was thinking about the experience playing the game and trying to put a handle on the whole of it, that this game is the game that finally for me trumps me playing the original Half-Life. And by that, I was thinking about, like, when I was going through the 2 labs and as Gordon Freeman the first time, and there was that experience of all this stuff that's going on, and you're not necessarily sure at any time who's the good guys, who's the bad guys, who's helping you, what you ought to be doing. But at the same time, you have this purpose of, I have to get the fuck across to the other site. So you're being pushed forward, and you're going through these environments, and you don't know what's going on, and there's always that sense of stuff that's going to surprise you, whether it's a surprise in the next room or it's a surprise in the context of what's happening in the game plot, and that's what BioShock really captured.
Did you play System
Did that
Shock
answer your
2?
question?
Kind of. I mean, I'm just wondering how it communicates that, because like System Shock did it through a lot of
voiceover
and a lot of things that you interacted with.
Right.
Like there'd be a lot of like going to a computer panel and reading someone's log or reading diaries, or the way that they kind of fiddled with a little bit in Doom. You know, do you remember?
Yeah.
The PDAs. Okay, so
Well,
yeah,
that was a bad Doom. That was a bad implementation.
But Doom's a bad example. So
But
it's
System Shock was a good example. Doom 3.
Yeah,
Right.
so this mechanic can be done very well, or it can be done very badly, and it's not cutscenes really.
I think what they did in this that actually works is, there's no cutscenes. What they did in this that actually works is they used a combination of different vehicles to deliver that. So yes, there is a element of the PDA. In this case, they're like these diary entries, and they're like audio diary entries, and you seek them out, and you definitely start seeking them out because the little nuggets that you get in them are really good. But there's also characters that are, incredibly bizarre and cool characters that you meet along the way that interact with you and offer you other things that you can do, like other, side missions, so
Optional type stuff.
And you want to do all those things. Anything that someone offers you as something to do, you want to do because you'll gain more background in the story. You'll learn more about what's going on. There's always there's like a PA system in Rapture, and so you'll have different people at different times talking to you. And
there's a lot of audio cues.
There's a ton of audio.
So going back to the diaries a minute, because like one of the things that a lot of games that have done this before is you'll go to a station and it'll trigger either an audio or a video thing, and then you have to like sit there and then the
System Shock 2 did not do that.
Right. So
Doom
can
3
you
didn't he?
BioShock does not do that.
So can you trigger it and then just listen to it while you go and get on with other stuff?
Right.
Absolutely. And you can also just throw it in your backpack and then listen to it later.
Yeah.
But what I found myself typically doing was doing exactly what you're saying. I'd pick them up. It has so it throws a little icon up in the top right-hand side of the screen. It tells you the name of it. It shows you the speaker's face, and it says press A to play. You press A to play, and it starts playing, and you can run around. If they start to say something interesting, then you might want to bring up the pause screen so you can actually pay attention to it.
So you can be in a firefight listening to someone's diary.
Well, suppose theoretically you could. You wouldn't want to because you'd.
Right, I know, but it is like like popping the earphones on, listen to a podcast while you're trundling around doing something.
You could absolutely do that.
So what puts this into? What surprised you? What puts this in the game of the year contention? Give us the. Once
you pick up the controller and go into Rapture, you will not want to put it down. You will be.
It's atmosphere. Is it controls?
Yes. Yes.
Pacing.
Yes.
Probably the pacing.
The pacing is fun. Let me tell you what. The pacing might be the best pacing in a first-person shooter ever. There is one stretch that is maybe like some people will say, "Oh, this is a little hokey," but outside of that, and even that, I don't think is bad. Outside of that, every time you pick up the controller to play it, you're going to be like, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, and you're moving through it, and you're pushing through it, and you're like, wow, there's so much to see, there's so much to do. The shooting, first of all, I was concerned about the quality of the shooter part of it, because it is a first-person shooter,
right?
And it handles the gunplay so incredibly well, and the AI of the enemies that you play against is phenomenal. You hear that stories of, they use cover and da-da-da. You don't ever feel like, they're going to use cover. You feel like you're dancing around these environments, fighting them in almost like a multiplayer game. Like, because you have to chase people, and sometimes they'll lead you into some of their buddies, and sometimes they're just off doing their thing. And you come across, that's one of the things I didn't know. You can actually play this game like a stealth game. You could play this game very Tom Clancy-ish.
But best first-person shooter ever, really?
No, not the best first-person shooter.
No, in terms
ever.
of I can't remember what you said. Like now, in terms of the way that the story unfolds, yeah.
Yeah.
Better than Half-Life or Half-Life 2.
Yes. Absolutely. This is the imagination that has gone into this crazy, I'm going to be an industrialist and build this utopian society, and then the examination of what happened inside. If you think about, he doesn't. Here's the beauty of the story: is the story doesn't slap you in the face with the details of why Rapture has fallen into the melee and it's fallen apart. But if you think about the motivations that the characters have and what's going on in there, you start to understand that these guys actually really thought out the answer to why that utopian failed.
So it actually has subtlety in its story, which is because that's something so many games lack.
It's
even games that I like the story, like Metal Gear, like Vamp the Vampire.
And I guess the final part for me is
right. A little more thought next time, please. Yeah.
And I'm big on conclusions. And the conclusion on this game, it not only is the conclusion satisfying, but the lead up to the conclusion is brings everything home really, really well.
Leave it open for sequels?
Well, Ken's already talked about BioShock 2 because, when people have pressed him on multiplayer issue, he said BioShock 2.
Okay.
There's not other utopian society that failed.
Well,
this one over here.
Without spoiling it and getting into massage chairs.
There's not
like
one ending.
You still bummed about the massage
I'll never play
chair?
the darkness the same. You've ruined it. You've ruined it for me.
Well, the darkness didn't offer you nearly so many issues to play with, but there was some shades of gray in that. I mean, because that's what we're going to talk about here in the second segment is how game design has started to maybe mature. I mean, we're hopeful that at least it's a sign of it maturing, where you're going to have choices and you can have the experience of the game and still approach it in your own personal way. That's what we're going to talk about when we come back in just a minute. Don't go anywhere. You won't want to miss it.
This show is brought to you by the Entertainment Consumers Association. Protect your right to game and join the ECA at theeca.com.
All right, we're back and ready to head into the community and a little bit of shades of gray conversation. So I'm going to turn the seat over to John.
Okay. Apparently, it was G4ia this week.
Funny you should mention that, actually.
It was in my office.
Red Swirl said, remember G4ia? And then a lot of people were like, what?
Was it always this time of year? Did they move it?
I don't think so, because
they gave up on it last year.
It's their awards thing. So here I have the full raft of G4ia awards. If you'd like some edited highlights.
Why are they doing
of it.
awards in August?
I don't know.
It's tough because I get it and Spike mixed up, but Spike does theirs in
December.
What? Yeah, but there's a problem with that too, right? Because then games
when they're voting, some of the stuff's not out yet.
Yeah, which in the fall, the big games. So
January is not an appropriate time for I don't know.
Why don't they do it like the Academy
Do you remember
Awards?
when we joked about this shit
you
last year?
do it in March. Right.
Do you remember when we joked about this last year?
G4ia?
Yeah, and how it had changed, how for 2 or 3 years it had been their big gala event, and they had the whole MTV Splash sort of event deal, and now it's a we might run it as a segment in Attack of the Show.
No, it's a segment on X-Play.
People used to go down there. People from here used to.
That's
go
an
down
upgrade.
there.
I'm going to test you on the.
All right.
I assume court of public opinion. I don't know.
Okay.
I didn't actually research this very
It's a
much.
kangaroo court.
All right.
Who do you think was best new character?
Marcus Phoenix.
Very good. 1 point.
Shut the hell up.
Yes.
Oh my God. I thought I was joking.
This is now a contest. 1 point, Mark McDonald.
Damn it.
Oh
All
my
right.
God.
Best sports game.
Gears
Madden.
of War.
What did you say?
Wait, sports?
Yes.
Madden.
No. What did you say?
Gears of War.
Gears of War. Garnet, bring it home. Best sports game. Come on. Popular vote. Popular vote.
MLB?
No.
No, wait. Here's my real
Yeah.
guess. Let me give me a real guess.
Yeah.
Is it a skateboarding game?
Oh, wait, I got it. Can I have a second guess?
You're all rubbish.
I have a second guess.
All right.
Wii Sports.
Yes.
Fuck that.
Half a point, Jeff Green.
All right.
Best most original.
What?
Not particularly great English, but here we go.
Bestest, most...
Bestest, most originalist game. I think Mark McDonald would probably get this one.
The problem is, do they mean in
shit.
2006 or what? I mean, it's August.
Who knows?
So what? From when?
Doesn't matter. Now.
Ever?
Gears of War.
No.
God damn it.
Get off the goddamn
Just say that for every
That's
answer.
why I thought you said. I would
It's
know
going to
what it
win
is.
something eventually, so keep...
What I
Most
like, it's
original.
A game that Mark McDonald really, really likes.
I already guessed. You guys go.
And it wasn't Gears.
And it wasn't Gears of War.
And it was original. And it wasn't a PC game. Mark doesn't have a PC.
I do. It's just
Supreme Commander.
No.
I don't know.
Dead Rising.
yes,
Oh.
yes,
Oh.
yes.
Wait,
And
that's
That is
like-
best most
2
original.
points. Give G4 2 points
Yeah,
for
from
that.
last year.
Can we give them points too? Can we give them points for that one?
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
last
whatever.
year. That's
Cool.
2006. Okay.
Yeah. Best voiceover.
Gears of War.
No.
Real.
Yes, actually.
Oh, really? There you go.
Thank you.
The mighty Rasta as Augustus Cole, apparently.
Not really. Oh no! Wait, that's Coltrane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ow!
Best graphics.
Gears of War.
Here's the one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Best action.
Gears of War.
Here's the war.
Very
Yes. Holy shit!
I've lost track of who has what points.
You guys have taken my shtick.
Here's
now.
one. Best, another one that doesn't really make grammatical
Yeah.
sense. Best deserves Yui Bowl, Yui capitalized, all 3 letters. Bowl movie.
Wait, so fucking G4 is
Best?
now stealing story ideas from Patrick Klepek?
Best deserves a Yui Bowl movie.
Wait,
I've
best
heard-
deserves...
I think they just put best on the front of
Dungeon
everything.
Siege.
No.
I'm trying to
Wait,
think of
deserves a Yui Bowl movie?
Yes.
getting a
deserve.
Also a
Oh, I
game
thought
that deserves
best
to be made
deserved.
into a
Oh,
movie.
no, what, best one that deserves?
Yes.
Gears of War.
no.
Actually, no. I would have voted for that, but apparently Red Steel.
What?
Oh,
Uh,
oh, Jesus.
Okay.
Game of the Year.
Should we even say
Gears
it?
of War.
He's making the face
All right.
there, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Gears of War. Best Hottest Babe.
Gears of War.
Okay, come on now.
Best Hottest Babe.
Lara Croft?
No.
Does she count?
Let's
She's
think
back.
here.
She's still hot.
Best hottest.
Do you know that no matter which way you swing the camera around in Tomb Raider Anniversary, it you know
her butt?
you basically you get her butt and her.
I heard they didn't actually
her-
design the whole front
her
of
bosom.
And I thought he was
Oh,
going to go
really?
off in a whole other direction. He said, no matter which way you swing.
Zoing. Yeah, wow. All right, so I honestly, it's hard for me to remember what games were in last year.
So
Like,
hot.
I don't
Babe
even think
from-
they were in. I don't even know when this was. Kasumi, Dead or Alive Extreme 2. When was that?
Fuck. Come on. Do you really need to give a fucking hottest babe award to
Yes,
Dead or
you
Alive
do.
anymore?
Yes, you do. Apparently.
Jesus Christ.
And there's some other shit that whatever.
All right, yeah, throw
Okay.
that. Do that. Yeah, crumple it up, throw it
I
away.
think we already gave it more attention than they gave it.
I don't think there'll be a G4A next year.
We didn't think
Did
there.
you see that all the
Did
way?
you
in
make
the
that
trash
shot?
can from over
He
here?
fucking made that shot.
Holy shit, that's probably what? How many feet?
That's a
6
three-pointer.
feet?
6 feet
Yeah.
at least.
Well done.
Wow.
Well done.
Not even American.
I'm not. I'm fucking awesome though. Matthias B picked up on a PSU.com story, which I wasn't sure what that was. Apparently it's PlayStationUniverse.com.
Not Phantasy Star
No,
Universe.
not about. There was some discussion over dinner and drinks at some event that I don't know what it was. That it could have been just a bunch of his friends. Actually, Sony is looking to bring Rockstar under its wing, which prompted a would Sony ever buy Rockstar? And then Xbox Fanboy responded with, "It's true because it was confirmed by his local EB Games manager."
Are you kidding? I wish I would have said it. I wish I would have said it 10 seconds ago because I was going to say when you were asking, like, I'm not sure where it happened. I was going to say, like, he heard it from his EB Games manager. Like, I think Jeff Zion said it all on that last one.
Yeah. I wish EB Games had a forum. That would be fantastic, wouldn't it? I mean, we could like feed them so many great rumors.
I wish there was specifically a forum of stuff that you heard from EB.
Oh,
Have you ever just like
even
sort
better.
of sat in the store trolling for comments?
Yes.
It is so fun.
It's awesome.
Well, I worked
Yeah.
in the store. Well, it was a Babbage's actually, but it was close enough.
He was a
And-
manager.
Yeah, Garnett.
Garnet was one of these people.
Oh wow, you okay?
You hear lots of great things like the memory cart slot and a Neo Geo can play Game Boy cartridges. I remember that was
It
one
fully
thing.
can.
Great stuff.
There was a lot of chat about the Silicon Knights epic lawsuit. Are we going to get into that later?
We are.
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
yes, brother. We are so gonna hit that news.
A lot of people had a lot of things to say about that. Mostly, actually, it was pretty evenly split. I think some people there are definitely sympathizers on both sides.
Yeah.
There's going to be.
Sawyer had a thread that's doing pretty well about boss battles, talking about how they've been around since the NES days. A lot of people have been complaining lately about the mechanic appearing in games like Halo 2, etc., which sparked a sort of best boss battles of all time sort of sub-thread within it.
It is interesting because a lot of games now don't seem to know whether or not they should have them.
Yeah, it's like a mechanic.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, talking about Bioshock, that sort of has bosses, but they're sort of just wandering around. The mechanic of a boss can turn up at any point, right? With the big daddies.
Well, you're talking about the big daddies, and the big daddies are the best enemy character ever created for a game yet.
You're full of the fucking
Jesus
hyperbole.
Christ.
They are amazing. Let me tell you what. Every time you encounter a big daddy, you just like there is like
Garnett's reading from his fucking script now.
there's no script. I'm telling
He's
you,
taking his pants off.
there
again as
is
well.
no script for this game. I love games.
The guns in Bioshock are the best guns I've ever seen in my life.
The
No, they're not.
12-year-old
They're not, but they're good.
girls in
They're okay.
Bioshock are the greatest 12-year-old girls in a video game.
I don't know. I'll have to
the
consult
water
some of that
in
stuff.
Bioshock
That's
is
a
the
Shane
best
topic.
water I've ever seen.
I have heard that actually.
It's pretty good water, yeah.
So people brought up Ninja Gaiden, like, because I think one of the discussions that came up is that that bosses are sort of an outdated mechanic. They were an artificial climax in games. It was just like, let's like make you stay in one place for too long. People talked about Ninja Gaiden a lot because they were ridiculous in Ninja Gaiden.
Right.
People really like the structure of the God of War stuff, like opening with a boss is like a really good thing that people liked.
Right.
And then a lot of people started to get quite romantic and about, remembering things like Boba Fett in Shadows of the Empire. Do you remember that fight?
No.
That was kind of cool.
Really?
There was a lot of, like, back in the day when a boss was actually an event in a game as opposed to just oh great, the door locked behind me. Yeah. Now I've got to do the fucking boss fight.
You couldn't have killed Boba Fett though.
No, it was
He just like flew away.
Yeah.
Zinged away. Boss fights, come on, it's like a mini climax. You have to have those peaks and valleys in games. The fact that we call them bosses and like in Metroid when you walk into a room and this is the boss fight room, that stuff obviously is probably outdated.
Look, the event of them is fine. Here's my problem with boss fights because I don't like boss fights. I don't like boss fights because the entire structure of them, to me, at least the way it happened to me, is that they're premised on frustrating you until you figure out the pattern of how to handle them,
right.
and then once you learn the mechanic of that, mechanically and methodically going through beating the boss. Whoop the fuck-de-doo.
Yeah, I agree with that, actually. I think it's basically just like a code you have to learn, which usually you get from GameFAQs. Oh, so first I have to shoot the guy in the eye 3 times.
Well, you get it from GameFAQs after you've been beat the fuck up so many times that you're like,
right.
Screw it.
Also, I get annoyed with them if they don't proceed on gameplay that has preceded it. If it doesn't sort of culminate, like, okay, I've done all these things to learn how to play the game now, and now here's my big test. Often it turns out to just be some random shit that has nothing to do with what I've just been playing.
Well, so it sounds to me like you guys are saying you do not like bad boss fights. Like, what's the problem with it? Are you saying you want the same enemy foot soldiers over and over again?
You know what I thought was a great example of good boss fights? It's PC, but it was Half-Life. Because in Half-Life, they did certain things that, like, they made you hate them by the time you got to them.
Right.
Like that fucking helicopter is, like, tormenting you, like, for many, for a whole big, huge chunk of that game. So then when you're finally confronted with it, you want to kill that thing.
Well, and exactly. And then you can't have, like, in God of War, these, 40-story tall monsters attacking you as normal fucking enemies. Like, that's a boss fight.
Yeah, you're right.
So let's hear it for boss fights.
No, negative.
You want to have spectacle. You want to have climaxes. You want to have peaks and valleys.
You do not need a boss to have spectacle. Half-Life 2 has ample amounts of spectacle. When you're in the outside world,
Bioshock also has the best spectacle of any game I've ever seen.
But does or does not Bioshock have boss fights?
I get bothered by the artificiality of them.
Bioshock,
the doors closing.
Again,
I'm in a round room.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, good way and a bad way to handle them.
If it's integrated into the game and the story,
but stuff like the Hydra and God of War, things like that. I mean, it's awesome. Those kinds of things. I mean, it's a way for you to be sort of blown away by what the game can do as well.
I think Half-Life 2 proved that great game design doesn't necessarily need boss fights. What's the hardest part of Half-Life 2? To me, it's when you're stuck in the jail near the end and you have to set up the auto turrets to protect yourself.
Oh my god, that was a tough level.
And that's not a boss. That's not a boss at all.
Yeah, that was just sort of like a,
But it does exactly what you talked about. It pulls everything you've learned about how to play the game together. You have to know your weapons. You have to know how to manage your weapons. You have to be able to set up the turrets, and you have to be able to manage an environment. Well, that's so much better than a boss fight.
I would never say every game needs boss fights, but I mean the concept itself, I don't think is obsolete. So.
No. Yeah, but you know what? You also liked Lost Planet, didn't you?
I really liked Lost Planet.
Which was lots of bosses. right? They weren't really climaxes, though, were they? They were
well,
more sort of.
Yeah, I didn't like Lost Planet because of the bosses, really. Like,
I liked it despite the bosses.
yeah, yeah.
So, we want to talk about sort of jumping off from BioShock, and also bosses are actually a part of this because there's a lot of games that we're starting to see lately that hark back to a certain kind of game design where there's this sort of infinite shades of grey to game design. And a bunch of you went to play BioShock you all got sort of sequestered away and locked away for an entire week where we didn't see any of you. And then at night, you would all come back, or early in the morning, you'd come back, and you'd all be telling stories about things. And where I was sat in the corner near three of you that were playing, and I would hear all three of you telling stories separately, and you would be talking about the exact same parts of the game completely differently. And this wasn't a playing the good path or playing the evil path. This was just you having hit a challenge from a different series of events leading up to it and experiencing it completely differently. So BioShock's doing it. We know, and we've talked about the fact that Mass Effect is doing it to the point where characters and major narrative points can be completely missing from one person's game and present somewhere else. GTA, when it eventually comes out, it sounds like they're going down this route a lot, where there's going to be multiple paths through it. StarCraft, too, taking this route.
Yep.
So, I mean, this is something that we're seeing not a lot, but it's a lot more common now. I mean, so from playing BioShock, I mean, I was just hearing anecdotes from you guys, and you'd hit a certain room and there'd be certain kind of music playing and certain characters coming in, and the fight would go down a certain way. Were you moving towards set pieces that gave the illusion of this freedom, or do these games now, are they getting so complex that you really are playing your own path through them?
Well, I think the thing about BioShock, in what it does as far as advancing what you're talking about, is that it's very natural. Because I don't think a game that didn't have all the pieces working together as well as this would work as well, because you're so drawn into it that you make the choices of how you want to approach the game just because you're doing it. This game has a ton of depth, and I think this is where games that Levine's team have made before bogged down, and someone like Warren Spector, where his games have bogged down before, when you present the player with a number of different options of, like we've done it before with biotic improvements, like I can improve all these skills and abilities, and then I can, do different things with guns, and there's all this stuff. And what inevitably has happened before in those games is people stop and they go, well, what's the best thing to do?
So you're saying that in the past there's been obvious branching points, and
right.
those are starting to go away.
Well, and I think that it was still somewhat artificial because you stopped and you were always trying to outguess the game, and you were trying to.
KOTOR did that. You were
right.
constantly aware of making the good or evil decision,
right?
And then you got the feedback from the game with the sort of good evil gauge that was showing you,
right?
And I mean, BioWare are taking that with Mass Effect, and now you accrue both good and evil, so it's not as black and white. But also, just wandering down a hallway in a game like Mass Effect can be part of this decision process,
right?
I mean, we saw with Rex the bounty hunter that he's really he can be an extremely important part of the narrative, or you can just choose not to talk to him, and you never see anything, and you never get the background on the race or about I mean, he beckons you over to say you did a good job for killing someone, and you can just leave it at that.
The complexity that it adds to developing these games, just thinking about that was this character, you don't even need to necessarily meet them, and we saw cutscenes and things that happened that we can't talk about where we're like, holy shit, and then they're like, yeah, and if you never talk to him, you don't even meet him.
And he's not just a guy that's tagging along or anything. He is a major part. He can be a major part of your party, and there's conversations you have with him and character. You start to learn about him as a character and his race. I mean, his whole species. And, there's insight into that experience that,
Yeah, the storyline and whole planets is given a whole nother, a whole nother layer with him in your party. So
really, BioWare's done this all along. I mean, you can go all the way back to Baldur's Gate. Baldur's Gate 2, they had entire. I mean, granted, we're talking about subquests or whatever, but still, there would be long chains of characters who would be important that other people, if you just didn't bother, you would never meet them. So BioWare's always practiced this notion of, having tons and tons of story and backing it up, with detail, with emotion, and with choice for the players.
Yeah, what I've found interesting about this is not even necessarily the games where you read a preview and it talks about like sandbox gameplay, or the developers are like, hey, this is sandbox gameplay. Like, especially the Japanese, like stuff like Grand Theft Auto, I think has had a definite effect on games. Like if you look at, but not in any sense that people think about it that way. So like Resident Evil 4, I think if you look at like the village that you start off in, you just go into this area and like you're just put into this area and you have to survive for so long, and you can go whatever way you want. You definitely don't think about that as like a sandbox game, or I mean the narrative is very linear, all that's very linear, but you have this area where you can go and you can do it 100 different ways. You could go up the bell tower, you can take the shotgun and hole up in one place. You can get on the roof.
It's interesting you mention that, because one of the things I was going to put to you guys is this seems to be, for the most part, unique to a certain type of mostly US developer. Like if you think about the classic examples of it, they come from like almost the same line of people. I mean, like if you think about BioShock, there's Ken Levine, and then you got Ken Levine's history with System Shock, and System Shock being associated with Warren Spector, who's one of the first guys that you associate with this kind of gameplay. So you've got that path, and you've got the BioWare guys, and a few other studios that do this stuff, but it's not that widespread because it's so complex. And it's always seemed to be a very sort of Western game design, sort of super ambitious thing.
I don't know that it's necessarily just a Western game design thing, but I do think that it's very much a maturation process and a function of teams that have stayed together, or at least core groups that are there that have learned from a process of evolution. So let's take the BioWare example. Baldur's Gate 2 had that interaction with different characters and different places to do, right? So then they did KOTOR, and they really got into how can we make character development have multiple paths to go down. Then they did Jade Empire, which I think we all agree that Jade Empire wasn't the high point for them, but they explored combat extensively. So now from what we're seeing from Mass Effect, it has lots of different options as far as the Baldur's Gate side of conversation and people to talk to. It has multi-layered character development like we saw at KOTOR, and it has a very visceral action-oriented combat system like out of Jade Empire. So you see this maturation of we've drawn from this and we've learned from what we've done in the past. And I think that, so we talk about BioShock, same sort of thing. Ken in that group has thrown, specifically in the Shock games, thrown a lot of options at you, and it could have been overwhelming, but they've learned how to really integrate that into the game so that you're not stopping and consciously thinking, oh, I need to make a decision here.
So the roots primarily from, I mean, it seems like it's a lot of PC guys that are now spreading into other things.
That's right. And I was going to say that and most of these PC guys, if not all of them, maybe their roots originally was tabletop gaming. So a lot of where this is coming from is guys who were playing things like D&D, which is, of course, all about making decisions. So I think that's why we're seeing a lot of this, is because guys like the BioWare guys and Ken Levine and these other guys are coming from gaming roots that go way back.
Maybe we can track it all down to one basement where one mythical game of D&D took place.
One crucial die roll.
Yeah.
Screwed it up for...
it or this whole industry. But John, I think you're right. I think it's definitely being driven by the Western developers. I mean, kind of the big stuff is now. And I think you're just now starting to see it integrated into Japanese games in an interesting way that I really like Dead Rising, to bring that up again. Like Dead Rising, even though it has these points and you had to hit and it was kind of awkwardly done, also had this like tremendous freedom involved in it that kind of came from out of nowhere. And they've said, Capcom has talked about how they're trying to appropriate Western ideas and develop games for the Western audiences. And that game really like hit home for me too. It's amazing the amount of freedom you have in that game.
Well, different cultures. I mean, in the Japanese game development, whatever the artistic mindset, right? That's a great way to put it. Mindset. They're very much oriented towards giving you more of what you really enjoyed in the game before. Look at the Devil May Cry series. How much
Well, I mean, I think I wouldn't say that about Japanese. That's kind of any sequel. Like I think it used to be much more. You look at the old Mario and Zelda games. It used to be from one to the next. It used to be kind of a radical change each game, and anymore
that's a really good one. That's a great point.
It's kind of more like, okay, we give you more of what you liked, you know.
And they, but at the same time evolving the series. Like certainly the jump to Mario 64 was amazing. It took everything that you had loved in 2D and made it translate and work in a 3D environment. So okay, that's a great point.
I would also say that, you know, this idea is something that, like, I wouldn't encourage every particular game developer or house to do. I think it takes a certain talent to be able to let gamers have that kind of freedom and not have your game fall apart.
Not every game needs it, right?
And not every game needs it.
Some games just tell me like a good story, lead me down the path, and don't let me notice.
Gears of War.
Yeah, then I'm doing it.
Right. Half-Life 2, you know, to me, both those games, to me, those games are like roller coasters, right? You're just basically doing what they've planned it all for you. This is the trip you're going to have. You know, now you're going to go past this scripted event. Now you're going to deal with this stuff. And if they pace it right, that experience can be just totally fantastic. Mm-hmm. You know,
can you give some examples in BioShock without sort of breaking any sort of pre-release rules of?
Well, so look, the pre-release rules notwithstanding, I don't want to break it for anybody because I don't want to ruin the experience of playing the game for you. So, like, give me a little context of what.
Well, just like give some examples of different of the breadth of options that you have to tackle things in different ways in a game like BioShock.
Okay, so first and foremost, it's a shooter, so you have the gunplay, and we all know about that part. But the big part that will offer you more options of how to advance on that is how you choose to upgrade yourself once you start getting into the gene splicing thing. And the gene splicing thing is not one layered; it's actually 4 layered. And this is what I was talking about. How surprising it was that with so many options, I never stopped. I never got bogged down in it. But it's because you start to look, and it probably goes very deep into the design of not just how they bring in the different things that you could do, but what they are exactly. So you can improve first of all, you have like a psychic sort of attack, a milieu of attack stuff. There's attack stuff you can do. And then there's also things that can improve your physical stature. There's things that can improve your combat abilities, and there's things that can improve your tech abilities. Mm-hmm. But you don't get bogged down in them. You started playing the game, and then depending on how you're playing the game, you know when you get an opportunity to upgrade something that's going to help you be better with guns, that you're going to take that because you're playing guns, or you know that when you get an opportunity to do something better that'll allow you to be more sneaky and maybe defeat security systems because that's the way you're playing the game. Of course, you're going to put your points into defeating security systems, but it all flows and ties together very nice and neatly with how you're playing the game, and it just comes together. Mm-hmm. So there's 4 ways that you can improve yourself, and that's the big set of options.
And you did what? Mostly guns? You took it as a shooter mostly?
I took it as a shooter out of the gate. So by the time I started opening more stuff, I used attacking and supporting like combat plasmids, which is like the biogenetic engineering stuff, to support what I was doing with guns. But at the same time, there's also ability to upgrade the guns. So when I started upgrading the guns, I looked at like, these are the guns I'm using the most. So the first time I had a chance to upgrade like the machine gun, I was like, hell yeah, I'm upgrading the machine gun because that's the gun I'm using the most.
It's obviously kind of RPG-ish, even though
it's very RPG-ish.
They've kind of shied away from that. Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's even a crafting system in the game. I mean, how amazing! It's like there's so
what I could like bake pies for
you
people.
You can recover different artifacts from junk laying around Rapture and use it to invent or create new things for yourself. Whether it be,
look what I made. The bad guys are like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, but you know what? And so then you have to decide. Or you don't have to decide. You already know. Am I crafting a lot? Well, if I'm crafting a lot, then as I get to an opportunity to improve those abilities with plasmids, then I'm going to start doing that. If I haven't been crafting at all, then I don't give a damn about all that stuff, so I'm not even touching it.
Mm-hmm. So I guess something else kind of related to this that I just thought of while Gunnar was talking about that. I think one nice benefit of all of this freedom and offering in games that aren't even necessarily about being a sandbox is that people's patience for monster closets and that kind of crap has pretty much gone away completely. Like if you feel like you're hitting a trigger, you're triggering something, like it takes you out of the game now like never before. And something cool that they're doing on that point in that Left 4 Dead game, that was at QuakeCon actually. You were at BlizzCon, but is they have monsters coming out of different monsters coming out of different places. There's no like generators like there is normally in those kind of games. So it's completely dynamic and just one more way that people are taking like this is a first-person shooter game, it's like a zombie shooter game, but instead of knowing when I cross this invisible line right here, in every game since Doom, including Doom 3, et cetera, a guy's not going to come right around this corner. You expect him to come around that corner, and then meanwhile, like behind you, there's like 300 guys coming up.
Now, Fear did a great job of not doing that. Oh, yeah. I mean, there would still be triggers.
Really?
There would still be triggers.
Fear, you would hear the guys. If I was like, why don't the guys just turn down their walkie-talkies? Because I would hear every time like, here we go. Before I even saw the guy, and okay, I know in the next room there's going to be a guy there.
That's true. There would be the invisible trigger, but they wouldn't always come at you the same place.
No, that's totally
or if
true.
You went into a room a certain way, they would try to flank you the other way.
There are traps in BioShock, and there are places that lead you into ambushes, but they're not Monster Closet, because the argument about Monster Closet is it's artificial, right? It's like you open a door and something pops out at you. There are traps and things like that. One thing I'd like that they do is that when they do the light kill effect, which is really dramatic in the game because it will definitely put you on pins and needles, they do bring the light back up before you get. It's not like. Did you play the original Unreal?
Yes.
Do you remember like the first time you met the Scourge and they put you at the end of that fucking hallway and they turn off the lights and then they kill you in the dark and you're like, oh, that sucked.
Yeah, I kind of like that. Well, just because it was funny.
It was funny, but how irritating was when you figured out you had finally beat the guy in the dark to get past that. One thing I like about the way they do it in BioShock is that they actually bring the lights back up enough that you can fight.
Right.
So it's not just we're going to rape you and just to hope you would lay there and enjoy it.
Right. Well, it always sucks when you have to die.
Once again, with the sex, it's getting violent now.
Yeah, violent. Yeah.
Violent sex.
It's because we didn't rise to it earlier. Now he's angry.
Yeah, when you have to die to figure out how to beat something, that's never a good thing.
Boss
and
fights.
then of course Doom had the most egregious monster clauses, because that was literally what it was, right? I mean, there was a guy basically with no living space whatsoever. He's just in a closet waiting.
But I
always kind of felt sorry for that guy. Why are you in there?
And that was
your mom put you in here?
That was the makeup for their crappy AI,
have
right?
You spent your whole life in this closet until I walked by?
I always thought at least, they should have had like some little like snacks and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
They should have put some things in the closet after you killed him that you saw, oh, okay, he has been here for like a month waiting for me to walk past.
Yeah.
I
felt
so
bad
for choices to work, you have to actually be facing a AI that is intelligent enough to just be doing stuff on its own. Because like the whole monster closet thing in Doom was to make up for crappy AI.
Right. It was interesting. I meant to mention this in the Watch It Playing, but I downloaded Marathon Durandal on XBLA, and that game.
Did it make you sick?
No, it didn't. I don't understand people saying that.
Well, it's happened to a crazy percentage.
I know. I don't get it at all.
I think it's because the default sensitivity is too high and the frame rate is.
Okay, I'm not having that problem. But but Bungie, we all know they tell great stories. They told them way back when these games first came out, and I loved the Marathon games. I still will contend that Marathon 1 was better than Doom 1. But
he worked on Mac Week.
I know.
I have Mac roots.
That
However,
explains a lot.
But playing it last night though, the AI. We have come so far.
Oh, the other thing about Marathon, I was surprised. It's come straight at you.
It comes straight at you.
Yeah, it makes Doom look like subtle.
Exactly.
So how much of a lot of this sort of sandboxy stuff do you think is influenced by multiplayer games and MMOs? Because it's something that seems to be coming. Like you were talking early on about like unusual spawn points. Or like non-obvious spawn points, and that got me thinking about what we were talking about a few weeks ago with Enemy Territory Quake Wars, with the whole notion of spawn points actually being fallen soldiers, and like that being a new idea there, and how long before a concept like that then turns up in a single player. It seems like multiplayer games are really changing people's expectations of what they see in single player. You were describing some of the BioShock battles as feeling like multiplayer fights.
All of them feel that way because
really good AI. I mean, the best compliment you can give any AI, and I felt that this way at times in Halo 1, is it felt like there were other people controlling the enemies,
and that's why the choices work. I mean, that's another reason that the choice, like we were just talking about, that's another reason the choice system works, because you're not feeling like you're just playing against an AI that knows, oh, if he fights me, I go and take cover over here. You're fighting against dynamic thinking creations, so you can play it stealthily, you can play it run and gun, you could play it a combination thereof, however you wanted to, and all these characters that are inside the game are actually doing something because they have motivation and where they are, it makes sense to them, and they're involved in whatever their world was.
Mm-hmm. So Jeff, have you seen The Crossing up and running?
Oh
No, I haven't.
It was Sean that saw that?
Yeah.
Because that's another thing where it's like a multiplayer game that's going to influence this kind of thinking. But in this, it's like do away with AI altogether, and everyone in the game is a real person.
Can you imagine how amazing that potentially could be?
Yeah, you'll be playing the single-player campaign, and the enemies will actually be other
guys
players.
who just want to
and
jump
Left
in
4
and
Dead,
play.
again, that it works that same way as well.
But do you think, are we all disciplined enough to be able to play that way? Really?
Well,
how do you mean?
So you go into a game and you go, today I'm not going to be the hero. Today I'm going to be grunt number 27. I'm just going to give the guy hell for half an hour.
It has to be an option.
If you're Sean Elliott, you'll do it.
I was saying, how many people grief?
Right.
No.
This is like the ultimate griefing.
You think The Crossing is like controlled griefing? Really?
Because if you get to play the guy who's like foiling someone from playing through their game.
Yeah, but you just want to grief the other enemies then.
It has to be. It will only ever work as an option. Like it has the normal AI, and then you can jump in, and I think that's how it works.
I think so.
In both of those games, right? It's like it's the same thing about the MMO where they keep saying like, oh yeah, no, we're gonna make people want to be leather mug, salespeople. Like we're gonna make people populate the entire.
Why did you think leather mug?
Because that's what Renaissance Festival people are into. But every every
so are you saying our listeners are Renfesters?
No, but I'm saying a lot of MMOs have come out, and I would read the previews, and they'd be like, no, yeah, it's going to be cool. All the shopkeepers, everyone's going to be people, and like, well, why are people going to want to like sell swords? Oh, it's going to be really worth it because we're going to do that. No, people aren't just going to want to. Some weird people, God bless them, are going to want to do that, and they're going to make the game much better. But a lot of people are always going to want to be the hero.
You need to have the in-game. This is a whole other discussion, but Star Wars Galaxies was the ultimate proof of that. They're like, the whole economy is going to be player run.
There you go.
There's going to, people are going to be dying, like you're saying, to sit around and make sandals,
dance
all day.
For a living.
But certainly that wasn't the case. That you need the AI to back it up, just in case. The player economy can be on top of the game economy.
I still think I think that what we're really hitting around is that we really are seeing what we talked about, asked the question of originally, a maturation of game design. But these aren't. I wrote down a name on the back of this sheet of paper that I showed to Jeff, which is Anachronox and Tom Hall, and that last week.
Yeah.
Last week we talked about games that have been overlooked or whatever. I loved that game.
The game was a freaking masterpiece.
So much.
Yep.
And
it really didn't do very well, did it?
Didn't do anything. That was the end of Iron Storm, that game.
As I think about BioShock, there's a whole lot of similarities there. And the irony or the interesting
BioShock is not going to sell. Is that what you're saying?
No, BioShock is going to sell great because the difference is that Anachronox was trying very hard to take the Final Fantasy paradigm for role-playing games and put it into a first-person shooter. And BioShock still is very much a first-person shooter, and anybody can pick it up and play it, and it's very simple to play. But the part that is there that the two share is the choices and the options and the way to approach the game however you wanted to, and the engrossing world and the atmosphere and that whole feeling of really being in it.
I still think BioShock. BioShock had a lot to lose for being pretty high concept, and I think one of the smartest things they did was start talking about it as a shooter.
Yep.
Because it grounded it a little bit.
Yeah.
Because when Ken started talking about it, it was all the sort of lofty ideals and the philosophy behind it, and it was like, I think a lot of people were reading some of that early coverage and being like, "It's about what?"
Right.
I'll tell you what, I'd love to see Warren Spector now come back and do like a Deus Ex 3, because I think that learning from 2 and 1, he could do it. And I'd love to see like I'd love to see like a power tree. I'd love to know what Tom Hall's doing. I think he's with Junction Point.
I don't know what happened to Tom. Yeah, I don't know.
I'd love to see like him and Warren Spector and Levine all get together and make like some crazy.
Warren's working for Disney now, right?
Yeah.
Didn't his studio get bought by Disney?
That's okay. They could do some wonderful things.
That'd be like a Golden Girls sort of thing if they all got together.
Oh, dear.
And with that,
And with that note, and there you go. All right, so when we come back in just a minute with the news, we have all kinds of major stuff to get into, including, as Mark has been excited about, the Epic move to dismiss the Silicon Knights suit. You laugh now, but in just a moment, you'll have more to say. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
You are listening to One Up Yours on the One Up Radio Network.
Calling all aspiring DJs and sneakerheads. You think you got the skills? Then check out Yaris vs. Yaris.com for the Yaris vs. Yaris live event series. Like this podcast, this event is brought to you by Toyota.
All right, we're back and ready to hit the news, and I have a great lineup here. We're going to get right off with the game announcements before we get into anything like meatier than that. And from the start, we have to say, yes, you did notice your blue light pulsing on the Wii because you got a firmware update. Lots of stuff in there. I guess the big part of it was an improvement to the Wii Shop. Everyone's been talking about the new searches that you can do, how much easier it is to find the titles that you're looking for as far as the retro stuff.
Yeah.
It also gives you 4 recommended titles on the home screen every time you log in. So it seems like they just learned a lot about interface design.
And a clock.
a lot of that.
Well,
That's actually
of course,
the thing
a
I like
clock.
the most. Is there's a clock on the front end now. I use that on my 360. I want that on my PS3 too. When I hit my
Are you enjoying
controller thing.
the forecast channel now showing you your local forecast in the icon?
I am, now that I knew to look for it, and and also the same thing with the news channel, right? It like has a RSS feed for.
So it'll show 2 scrolling
Yeah.
or 2 line items on there. So yeah,
It's
sure.
a lot of little stuff, but it's cool that they're doing that. I'm glad. Like, this is the first time they've done it, so I'm glad they're still improving things. I'd fucking much rather a new channel or maybe a game.
Mhm.
But hey, I'll take that. Metroid coming soon.
I always kind of like it when the blue light starts throbbing.
It's exciting, isn't
Yeah.
it?
It is.
It is exciting. It's like, ooh, what's it doing?
We told the Xbox guys, like, if you're going to steal something, steal that.
Yeah.
Like, that's the coolest thing. If you have a new friend request, whatever, it is a great idea. It just hasn't, there's not
Yeah.
enough stuff going on.
Maybe they can make like a little purple line across the top of your Xbox. With
something.
throb and pulse and
Wait, what?
I'm all
Where?
for, I'm all for throbbing.
So what? When you turn on the Wii, just when it's
No,
there's-
because your Wii never really turns off.
oh, okay. So it's sort of like a
if it's-
message on your answering machine. It's like
Right.
flashing.
Exactly. You
so
can turn it on or off.
it's the DVD slot has an LED, a blue LED all the way around it. So it starts to throb as the data's coming in.
It's the slit. It's a throbbing slit.
I'm walking far away.
Garnett,
from
I
that.
gave that one to you.
I'm staying out of it. I might get accused of being overly sexual.
What's next?
What's next is you've been playing demos on live. There were a couple of great demos we have, so I'd like to go through those. We got Eternal Sonata real quick. That's a 548 megabyte download. You get 3 different areas you can play in, and also Stranglehold, which you played as well. That's a huge download, though.
It was pretty big.
It's like 1.25 gig.
I had to clear some shit off.
So a live demo is coming in. Also, I like this one particularly. You guys are going to love us. So Uwe Boll's Postal movie, it might not be the most exciting thing coming on Postal.
I think it's Uwe, by the way.
Uwe.
We have to say Uwe.
Jeff Green just held up a sign, throbbing slit.
You know that was the point, right? You know that's why I said that. It wasn't just like an accident.
I know.
Okay.
I'm just stuck on that phrase.
Okay.
It's just
Depending on what kind of phone you have, you might be able to make it throb and pulse some with the new mobile Postal Babes game. Now, wait a minute. Have you ever checked out?
God.
I have to tell you, one of the world's better not safe for work sites, which is www.gopostal.com/babes. It's just a combination of topless chicks and Gary Coleman. It's like
See, this is exactly why they do it, though. Like, I almost hate this. They're winning. Like, the terrorists have won. Will you talk about it on this
Terrorists
podcast now?
I love the incredibly sincere statement that the boss of Running with Scissors made about how he was really proud that this brand extension and how now that the Postal Babes have their own
really?
experience.
Right.
It was like hilarious because it's like, really?
okay.
yeah. When we gave Postal 2 a 0 in what
gave
was
it a
Computer
0?
Gaming World, we realized after like 2 days after that got out that was the biggest mistake ever because they loved it at Running with
Yeah.
Scissors. They
Really?
put it all over their website. We were like, man, if we just gave them a 1. they would have gotten no attention.
Yeah,
but
or
they love the 0.
Even like a 4 would have been probably the worst, most damning
or a 3,
score. Yeah,
the most mediocre.
This is a sort of apathy score.
It's got to be. It's got to be like
Exactly.
the Heat in Tucson or something that gets to them. I have no idea. And the only reason I know that they're in Tucson is because I was a district manager for EB, and all the guys that worked at Running for Scissors shopped at one of the stores we ran, and they are weird. Yeah, they're. So anyway, listen. This is awesome. You're gonna love it. They've hired a company called HeroCraft to make the Postal Babes cell phone game. You know, HeroCraft.
Are we still talking about the Postal?
You,
Come
you,
on.
but you have to hear this. This is awesome. HeroCraft has also made this game called Sexzonic, and this is a quote from the description of Sexzonic. You're gonna love it. In Sexzonic, girls aren't shy, but you have to think over to reach a naked pretty one. On the face of this mega erotic conundrum, it has a very simple rule. If you want to clear a picture, you have to cut it into sections cover. You also should to avoid roving killing balls.
We're
It's
done with
awesome.
This is the nadir of
You
human
are
civilization right here.
Jeff,
This is the bottom.
What's the game that you have, the PC game, the box that I saw in your office?
Rihanna Rouge.
Oh my God! Google that game. It is unbelievable.
It's one of the 20 games that the ESRB has ever rated AO, right?
If you read,
Yes.
if you read the back box copy of this game, it is the most hostile, vile shit.
It
ever.
is.
It's like
It's misogyny of the game.
Yeah, it's basically like bragging about how you're going to have two choices. One is you'll be able to romance this voluptuous babe, and then the opposite, or you'll be able to cut her up into pieces and watch her blood. I mean, it's just something like, wow, do we hate women here at whatever company this is?
I remember standing in Kentia Hall getting a demo to that game.
The awesome thing is it's still for
Jesus.
sale on their website.
Yeah.
You can still buy it.
That's right. We looked it up. We were trying to get some videos of it.
I'm looking at this, and I'm thinking, good band name. Throbbing
Slit.
Good band name.
I want a piece of that.
My
Action.
new Guitar Hero band name might be Throbbing Slit. I may retire Junk Butter once and for all.
Two big PC games also got their release dates this week. Speaking of release dates. And those would be Enemy Territories Quake War coming at the beginning of October the 2nd in the North America area, and September 28th in Europe. A little slightly earlier over there. And then Hellgate London, October the 31st. Another big announcement from EA this week is that NHL 08 will be the first game in the EA Sports Series to finally get on the bandwagon and have these little online leagues. We got to talk to Jeff Atienza, who's the online producer of NHL 08, and he cops to the fact that EA was on a 3-year plan, and the second year was including online leagues. However, what he won't say is whether it has anything to do with any other sports games from EA. All he says is, I can only speak for my game.
Well, that's a big question, but I do hear very good things about that NHL.
It seems a few years overdue.
A few years?
Online league thing.
Well, yeah.
Also, did you mention Tabula Rasa? That's coming out soon.
Is it coming out soon? What do you hear?
It is in September. That is coming out soon.
Well, there's going to be a big event during all.
That's good.
I was answering the question.
All right then.
Moving
on.
on.
Microsoft and the Xbox 360 has got a own little corner of the news section this week, among other things. We found that the price drop was officially confirmed. No big surprise there, although it's kind of weird. What the fuck is with multiple price drops depending on which version you buy? So we're giving you $50 off on the premium.
That's a bit piddly.
But we're giving you $30 off on the Elite, and if you want the core, we're only going to give you $20 off because this is like a Republican fucking tax break. It's more money off for the higher priced ones, and the people at the low end, I'm sorry, we don't really love you so much.
Well, I'm not sure there's anything behind it, but yeah, you might.
Isn't
you
there
might
more
think,
money off the middle one?
Yeah, they're pushing people towards.
Don't think too much. I just threw that out there real quick.
They might be pushing people, but I'm so sick of fucking who knows what is what anymore. Like the PS3, you got to keep track of all of this shit.
Because now also the premium is new as well, right?
We got
the premium is new, and so now we have HDMI starting to appear on premium SKUs. Shack News broke this story, and they actually got confirmation from Microsoft. Microsoft responded to Shack News, and they confirmed this quote to us. Yes, we are offering an HDMI port for the Xbox 360 simply as another choice in Xbox 360's owners, games, and entertainment experience. Now, the rest of the story is I've been watching this on the forums. Originally, people thought that July 4th was the magic manufacturing date, that if you bought one that was after that, you'd be golden. Not necessarily true. I guess it depends on the facility that it was built in, because there's now people who are saying, well, I looked at my box, and it says that my unit was manufactured like a week ago, and it didn't have the HDMI.
Supposedly, there's going to be some. I thought there was going to be a sticker. It at least says on the side of the box if you're still buying one. I don't care about any of this shit. I care about the quiet. Like that's the only thing I really care about.
That's the other part. We have no idea about the infamous Falcon chip, which is a 65 nanometer change of die. Although we did hear this week that the company that manufactures that chip says that they've been in production now for a couple of months. They should be in retail units. They've also apparently been approached by a unnamed corporation to investigate creating 45 nanometer chips.
Wait, so this will make the thing quieter? Is that
Well,
what you're talking about?
You get you get to smaller. Supposedly, if you get to a smaller chip size, then it runs more efficiently, and you're able to cool it right. The big noise maker in the 360 though is the drive, right?
It's the fan cooling down.
That's
What
a
the
loud
fuck do
goddamn
I
I think
know?
it's the DVD drive. Well, it's
Really?
I think it's the DVD drive.
I just want it quiet.
Well, there was
Wow.
speculation.
That's all
It
I
is
know.
loud. It is loud as hell.
Yeah.
And if you need repairs on your 360, you talked about them having experience. They have so much experience that they now have a new site that's service.xbox.com set up just to cater to people who need service for their 360s.
Well, that's nice.
So it was
for
very,
them.
very polite of them, right? So if you've just bought a 360, you'll want to go there and register your Xbox 360. If you have already registered via phone, you have to go and re-register through the site because for some reason they can't get their web interface and their phone people to talk. If you do that, though, you'll be able to track repairs when you need to have them. You'll be able to see exactly where your 360 is.
That's
kind
nice.
That's
it concerns me though that they need to set up this whole UPS tracking system to
Well,
take care of
it's good they're doing it. I mean, they did that huge offer, with the red rings. So good for them.
I suppose. But let's get to the big problem with 360, which is you were just mentioning this, John. Too many different SKUs. We've talked about the hard drives before. The hard drive is starting to become a snowballing fiasco for them, isn't it? Patrick did a little investigative report here. It started with a quote that Microsoft had done in Game Informer about how the hard drive would not be critical. However, this has recently become in question because box art mock-ups for Call of Duty 4 had a sticker on them that indicated storage required. So the question,
what the fuck is up with that?
That's a damn good question. And the more Microsoft answers the question, the more ambiguous it becomes. They were quoted at GamePro.com, and they confirmed this quote to us. Now, I want you to listen carefully. Every game will work with every Xbox 360 system. But just like some games will require you to have a memory unit to save games, some games will require you to have a hard drive to experience them.
That's awesome.
So
Wait, hold-
So what?
Hold on.
That's brilliant. Someone needs a raise for that bit of marketing speak.
No, it'll work. You just need to go and buy a hard drive.
Right.
That's what they're
it.
fucking saying.
Yeah,
That's
you
what they're
can play
saying.
it. You just can't experience it.
Yeah. That's phenomenal.
That is like the quintessential bullshit statement,
It
right?
can get you to the title screen,
It
no
can
matter
get you
what.
to the title screen.
and then you're fucked.
So I don't know whether they've rewritten this or not, but Patrick went over and looked at the hard drive FAQ at Xbox.com, and it includes some more doublespeak along the same lines. It says, even though most games do not require the Xbox 360 hard drive,
Most games.
it's exactly most
There's that
games.
one game in Europe or whatever, that soccer game.
Well,
but-
there's actually been two games. So Final Fantasy 11 requires it,
okay, yeah, right.
and European title Football Manager 2006 required it because Sega claimed that was the only way to handle the large save files that were associated with the game. The most games require it. Microsoft tells you, by the way, it does save you money in the long run if you get one that has a. How does it save you money in the? Because you don't have to go back and buy one of their outrageously priced hard drives as an
opposed-
add-on.
That is what they mean.
Yeah,
That's
that is.
exactly what
Yeah.
they mean.
But they now have, like, you buy one 512 meg one, and like that's going to last you in games. I mean, like, some of the game saves are a bit stupidly big, but come on.
So the Call of Duty storage required thing, like I heard about that. I didn't.
It's a
see
rumor.
it.
It's part of a box art mock-up.
Okay, so I wonder. I mean, even in that case, if that comes to pass, I wonder if that just means. Well, that's gotta mean hard drive.
Well, I'll leave you with this last quote from the Xbox hard drive FAQ, which is, while most games do not require the use of the hard drive to work, many harness its streaming capabilities and data caching features to improve performance.
So that wouldn't be a surprise,
Okay.
though.
Hi, we're setting the stage for Grand Theft Auto. By the way, you'll have to have a hard drive to play it.
Less loading times. I mean, that wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, if that's what it is, that's fucked up, big time.
So that's the Xbox corner, but it's not necessarily all of the next gen corner. The NPD did an interesting little survey, and it's so funny. Like, we've talked before about whether or not high def television and all that mattered in people taking hard drive or high def stuff into their house. I mean, does it really matter, right? Well, so what the NPD group did, the Next Gen Functionality and Usage Report, and in which they found that only 40% of PlayStation 3 owners were aware that the machine had a Blu-ray player.
And only half of those actually
I think
used
that
it.
tells of a massive marketing failure on Sony's part.
Yeah, big time. So people were talking about that when the first PS3 numbers came in, and it was like, yeah, they didn't sell it to even the home theater people.
Right. And you know what the NPD study says is that basically those of us sitting here, at least me, had no fucking idea what we were talking about when we said people were buying PS3s as Blu-ray drives. Because apparently we were fucking clueless.
You and Shane.
We totally overestimated the people. But even catch this, only 30% of Xbox 360 owners were aware of the HD graphics capabilities of its machine.
Well, wait. I thought it was the HD movie playback. Are you sure it's not? I thought it was the HD, because that wouldn't surprise me, because you need to have a add-on and it's the whole.
As a matter of fact.
But even HD gaming in general is a much more ambiguous concept to grasp than this thing plays high-def movies.
Well, to answer your question, Mark, actually the study did not poll about the Xbox 360 HD DVD add-on because it's not a standard feature for the 360.
Oh, well, it seems weird that they're comparing Blu-ray to because that's the only thing that made sense to me. They made such a big deal about how these new systems are now HD compliant. I thought everybody knew that, but the movie playback part,
yeah,
that I
negative.
can understand.
Apparently, only 30% did. However, 50% of PS3 owners did jive to the fact that their game machine of choice was high def capable.
They jived.
They jived to that. They got that down. Patrick caught up with Anita Fraser. She's an analyst at the NPD who chalked this all up to the industry being, quote, in its infancy with regard to this next gen and all the expanded capabilities of the systems. Do you guys buy that? It's still in infancy of next gen?
Completely.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Wait, don't you have the DS fact in there? The factoid? That was my favorite one.
I must have missed that.
It came in the same group of data here. It was some high percentage. I'm sorry, I don't have the number. You have to look online.
Make something up.
Double digits, 38%. There, I made it up. Did not know that their Nintendo DS was a dual screen. Had two screens.
Wait, what?
I am not making this up.
What?
I am not making it up.
Are you shitting me?
Go look it up online.
No.
Oh, dear.
Go look it up.
Oh, come on.
Go look it up.
Okay, the question must have been worded weirdly or something.
Well, that is the key
Did
to
you know
statistics.
DS stands
How many
for dual
screens does your
screen?
DS have?
Yeah.
Come on.
Go look it up.
Jeff,
I'm not shitting you.
does this make any sense to you, though?
No.
Was
I
that-
am the messenger. Don't yell at me.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
Go look it up.
Don't believe it.
Before you move off the Blu-ray playing thing,
Yes.
I wanted to talk a little bit about. I'm sure a lot of people last week bought 300 on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And may have noticed all the little jumps and farts and flashes that it makes, and are assuming possibly that it's your PS3. It's not. So there's a number of scenes where there's one in particular that I noticed where they're on a hilltop and it's sort of quite darkly lit and all the shadows flash on and off.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a PS3 problem. It's apparently, and we did some digging when we were talking about this internally and on some of the AV forums. It's actually the encoding on the 300 Blu-ray. So let's hope that they do another cut of it.
Well,
because
chances are probably good, because I did read today that the 300 has now become was it the fastest selling or the highest?
Outpaced Casino Royale.
Wow.
And it's one of those movies that you really want in high def because
And it's available
You
on
want to
HD.
see those glistening pecs.
You do.
Perfectly.
How sad is that, though? Because that's
It's very off-putting. I
that
mean, like there's
fucking
times
sucks.
where the shadows are literally they're like flashing on and off, like there's something wrong with. I mean, your automatic assumption is there's something wrong with the PS3. Why is it doing that? And it's not. It's the software on the disc for the movie.
So this flick's available both in Blu-ray and HD DVD.
Mm-hmm.
And back when Blu-ray was just starting to challenge HD DVD, we ran into this before, where they weren't using as high quality of codecs in their encoding. Here they maybe made encoding slip up. Have you heard anything about the HD DVD version?
No.
Okay, so that would be interesting for someone to report back on whether the HD DVD version has those same.
This
hiccups.
was purely anecdotal that led to some digging, but I know a bunch of people that bought it as the second or third Blu-ray movie that they've bought. Most people have Casino Royale, Planet Earth, the stuff they got free, and then they were waiting for 300. And
But you
that's
said
kind
Planet
of-
Earth hitches up some.
Yeah, that hitches up in shadows as well, and apparently that's an encoding issue too. So it's like, but when you first see these problems, and it's very often in the blacks, and there's things the PS3 does to clean up the blacks, as Shane very enthusiastically revealed to us a while ago, but that doesn't fix it.
There you have it. We have two dads with us today, so I'll get you guys' opinion.
My two dads.
That would be
that would be us, I think.
We're not dads of the same children.
Just to make that clear.
Let's
go ahead.
We're not,
Carry
cohabitating.
However, they might have the same mothers involved.
What?
Huh? I don't. Anyway, go on.
Okay, you guys are both good parents, though, because you take care of what you pay attention to what your kids play, and the ESRB is definitely playing to that sympathy now because they're launching a new ratings awareness campaign, and this is based around the releasing new PSAs. And I think that the most interesting part of this is that the star of these television and radio spots is a Attorney General for the state of Rhode Island and their child. So how much impact do you see that potentially having when now you're starting to see, A, what's going on? How did they get that person there? And B, how much impact does it have?
I think it's huge. You need political figures standing in front of cameras and saying video games are okay as long as you do this. I think, the more, I think as we go into the election next year, we're going to see a number of political figures that are more sympathetic to, and the ESA is going to get more aggressive in its lobbying. In the past, it's not been particularly well organized when it comes to going to the lobbying groups. And with Mike Gallagher taking over, he has a lot of experience on the Hill, a lot of experience working with lobbying groups. I think we're going to start seeing governors and attorneys, the attorney generals from different coming out and saying, look, follow the guidelines.
It's a little bit of a bummer that they got someone from the smallest state in the country.
Yeah, I was going to say,
like they all in a room and who wants to do this?
I haven't seen it myself, but I've heard that it's very it plays like a sort of Midwestern political ad.
He's not guiding bullets into heads and stranglehold.
No, but it's like I could just from that description I can just imagine that it's him and his son or whatever in a cornfield, talking about
blowing the heads off aliens.
It's morning in America. It's morning in Rhode Island.
Cheesy or not, the part that gives me the most feel-good moment out of this is that when asked about it, the Attorney General in question, his name's Patrick Lynch, gave a long quote, but the big part of this, it's up to us as parents to take every measure possible to increase protections for our children.
Yes.
Well, doy.
Thank you.
But that's not what we hear, right? That's not what we hear.
You're right.
That's not what we hear in our next story, which is going to be about the judge here in the state of California overthrowing anti-video game law AB 1179. And before we go any further, I'm going to jump to the end of it, which was where Leland Yee, who represents us here in San Francisco, has the most... You wonder if the guy hears stuff like that, because here he says... the $31 billion video game industry has fought any attempt at regulation every step of the way. They fought efforts to publicize their rating system because they thought it would impact sales, and now they're again putting their profit margin over the rights of parents and the well-being of children.
Rights of parents?
Over the rights of parents.
The thing is, some of these guys like Yee.
There shouldn't be regulation. There's not regulation on books. There's not regulation on movies. There's not regulation on television.
But I mean, this is.
But how has the video game industry has fought the regulation? But we've been very upfront in the last few years with the ESRB leading the charge.
If he's bitching about regulation, I mean, like the more these things get shut down, the more it's like, look, get over it. It's a form of entertainment, the same as these other ones.
But they harm the children, John.
Yeah, well, you want to start regulating this? We're going to go regulate books. How do we feel about that?
What you really need to do is, I think, what you really need to do is you need to regulate. People having kids. You need to have you need to have like a basic intelligence test. If you can't pass it, you're not allowed to spawn.
A modest proposal.
If you're that stupid,
by Jeff Green.
Thank you. If you're that stupid that you don't know how to keep games out of your kid's house, you're not intelligent enough to have kids.
And I mean, and
bravo.
Yes, but this is a good story, like at its heart, because this is the judge striking it down. Like he gave that quote.
This was good news.
Yeah, this is actually good news. So
Judge White, in his ruling, stated that the evidence does not establish that video games, because of their interactive nature or otherwise, are any more harmful than violent television, movies, internet sites, or other speech-related exposures.
Right the fuck on.
Big,
you know what pisses
big
me off
shocking
about,
surprise.
What pisses me off about Yi and some of these other guys and Hillary is
Arnold.
But Arnold's fundamentally conservative, or he's at least Republican. I don't know how conservative he is, but a lot of the people who are anti-video game are in every other sense liberal.
Yeah.
And they pick this issue because they think that somehow this is going to play. It's such a cynical thing that they're going to play to like a middle America that still sees games as bad.
Well, you heard how he was prying it off. This is big. They play it off like this is big industry trying to make money.
Absolutely. When you look at the guys that are fighting the hardest, it is mostly Democrats.
Right. And it's just because they think somehow this is going to make them look quote unquote tough.
Yeah, and they're
tough on bad things.
This is the way to like bring them towards the middle because it's high profile and it's like, hey, look, we do everything else that you want, and we're conservative on this video game stuff.
And video games continue to be an easy target in which they can get out and make these sound bites that make themselves look very good in the public, but
exactly.
and not
but
really
these
have
same
much fear
people,
of
if there was some legislation about books or movies, like you're saying, they'd be all over it, saying this is unconstitutional.
So look, here's a great example of this disparity. The law sought to place additional layer of regulation onto violent video games. Okay, that was what the law stated. Arnold, in his response, said, "I sign this important measure to ensure that parents are involved in determining which video games are appropriate for their children. Many of these games are made for adults, and choosing games that are appropriate for kids should be a decision made by their parents." Then why the fuck would you support a bill that takes it out of their hands and makes it a government decision?
He'll just do what he thinks people want. Like I don't like him or dislike him, but
I don't like him or dislike him either. I'm just
definitely like trying to just make friends these days.
Right.
Violence in video games has become very much a political issue, and in an election year upcoming,
it's going to be
fucking
absurd next year.
We're going to continue to fight this over and over and over.
This time next year, when we're 2.5 months from an election,
oh my God,
can you imagine the nonsense that's going to be coming up?
When Manhunt 2 maybe still might just be about to come out?
I've said this before. The basic thing is we just have to wait for all these people to die.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it.
But until that time, if you're a gamer of voting age, don't just sit on the sideline all the time. Do things like go to the ECA. We have a PSA. I mean, we're not getting paid to run those ECA ads that you're hearing in these podcasts. That's just something that we're doing as a partnership.
Go to the ECA, go to the ESA website, and they have their whole video game voting campaign. I mean, go check that out. Look at the things that, if you're voting, things that will directly or indirectly affect things happening in video games.
Definitely,
some of them they
vote.
get sort of attached onto weird things.
Just vote.
Yeah,
just vote.
When it's time for the election, just turn off your console
always
for
vote.
1 hour and go vote.
Absolutely,
and we will love you.
And that's our PSA for this week.
Hey, you know what? There you go. And I'm going to bring it home, Mark, with your subject. Here it is, right here. Last story. It's the best one for last. Epic has recently filed a counterclaim to Silicon Knights' suit against Epic regarding the Unreal 3 engine. So let me just, you guys.
I love it when shit gets like this. It's awesome.
That's the only reason.
Fight.
It's the only reason it's my story is because this is just like it's got to suck if you're on either end of it. But like as the third party, like this stuff,
it's
watching it
beautiful.
go back and forth. It's like because you hear about stuff that you normally wouldn't.
So it's really interesting the way they've couched this counterclaim does sort of leave them exposed to some people taking pot shots at the Unreal Engine 3. For instance, one of the things that they go back to is that the contract specified only that Epic would be able to demonstrate that its Unreal Engine 3 will operate on Xbox 2 within the time specified. Not that it would actually work. They'd just be able to demonstrate that it might work. They also were very adamant that this agreement does not include any warranty, that the functions performed by the Unreal Engine will meet Silicon Knights requirements, nor that the operation of the Unreal Engine will be bug-free or error-free in all circumstances, nor that any defects in the Unreal Engine can or will be corrected.
So basically, we're going to give you something that we're going to call Unreal Engine, and it will run on
maybe
the next Xbox
sometime. We'll be able to show that it might work down the road.
Run according to us and like whatever bugs or whatever. I mean, if you sign that contract though, and who knows? We don't know who the fuck is right or wrong in this, but if you sign that, like, what's more silly, writing a contract written that way or signing that? But
I think the answer very easily to that one is you signed that contract. You signed that contract. You knew what you're getting into. And it's not like Silicon Knights didn't know what they were getting into. They apparently evaluated the engine for a total of 9 months prior to even entering into any sort of agreement with Epic. So it's not like they went into this thing sight unseen or something. They're not like, we had no idea what was going on. We never looked at this Unreal Engine before.
9 months.
At the same time. I mean,
that's like when you have a baby going, this isn't what I thought that night was all about.
No shit, right?
When you did that thing, this wasn't the deal.
This is like you're standing in the delivery in your room and you're like, God damn it, why'd I drink that last mojito?
The great thing is you have 9 months to realize your mistake. So and nature works well that way.
I mean, at the same time, we've said
and business arrangements between studios working with Microsoft apparently.
So
that's the funny thing. Microsoft, like, kind of caught in the middle. Like, they're two. I mean, they're neither of them are directly affiliated, but they're both pretty closely tied to.
No, we say Microsoft, and keep in mind that shipping with the PS3 dev kit is Unreal Engine 3, so that's a big part of this as well.
Right. I mean, but also they announced at E3 that Epic is actually going to be supporting the Unreal Engine for PS3. Like, they had to come to a deal.
Well, let's not say that they haven't.
The online part of it, and we know
Epic
people have been having
supports.
trouble, but we know people have been having trouble, like there is with any engine, and we've been hearing about it now because it's next gen. But so, who are we to say if it's more or less? But we have been hearing about people having problems with the Unreal Engine, especially on the PS3, right?
So you're gonna like the other side of it. So let's get to the other side of the equation real quick. The other side of the equation is Epic's claim, and they're saying the countersuit basically says that the plain language of the Silicon Knights complaint makes it clear that Silicon Knights wants to take Epic's licensed technology, pay nothing for it, and use it in any way it pleases.
Well, yeah. So they're saying that their new code, that the new Silicon Knights engine uses parts that they learned from the Unreal Engine.
Not only uses it, but is basically that they just now they're trying to rip them off.
Right.
They're just trying to rip them off for an engine that doesn't wait. So I can't wrap my head around this. They're trying to rip us off for an engine that doesn't work, but we never. What the fuck?
Well, no. What they're saying. Here's what I think they're saying is now that they've read our book or whatever, like now that they've written theirs, it uses part. Like they looked at the program.
But if Silicon Knights' argument is that the engine doesn't work, why would they want to rip it off? You telling me they want to rip off an Edsel?
Well, pieces of it might work. That's what they're saying, right? Like it might not have been complete, but pieces of it. The fucking Unreal Engine must kick some ass somewhere because Gears of War looks amazing.
It won a bunch of G4 awards.
Yeah,
well, that means
that
something.
says it all.
That says it all right there. So at the end of this all, by the way, Epic is also claiming that they have been damaged in an amount to be determined and proven at trial.
But
folks, this thing's just getting started.
Not under 700,000, I think they said, at least somewhere around there.
This thing's just getting started. How awesome! How bad's it going to get, John?
Oh, we'll be talking about this for a few months, I think.
It's going to be fantastically ugly.
They'll settle.
They'll settle.
Yeah. You think?
They'll settle, they'll reach an agreement, and everyone will hug and kiss.
Yeah.
And
we'll never know the exact terms of it, but there'll be a settlement.
And if they don't settle...
Oh, brother, it could be a blast.
GIF.
Then we want to find out what if they're not going to settle. We want to find out what courtroom it's in, and we're going
live blogging the trial.
All right, folks, I hope some of you guys out there listening right now will be joining us at PAX in a couple of weeks. We'll be doing the show live on Saturday night in the big auditorium, 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. You'll have me and John and Shane up there live on the stage. We'll also be kicking it around PAX if you want to, bother us or, I don't know, whatever. We talk about games and do that kind of stuff. We also talk about games on boards.oneup.com. That's where you'll find us until next week. So that's all we have this time. Until next week, we're gone.